they spending all this time for not have favorable trade deals.
Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is today. You heard that little C-SPAN caller pop in and start right as we started the show. Look at that. Well, that's because we're all waiting for Trump's 100 days in office rally. Today's day 99 specifically, but tomorrow's 100. And so let's celebrate. We can't wait. The winning has just been too much. We have to celebrate now. And so we're waiting for the tubes to fire up. Whoa, looks like Trump is coming out maybe right now, in fact. Yeah. All right. So we're getting the tubes percolated. Here it is over from C-SPAN. Via C-SPAN, here is the president. All right. So right on time. Woo, we were not expecting that exactly. So he's there. You can see here's what the cable's got for us. We're waiting for the president to come out. So it looks like a nice crowd there. Here's what the cable's got for us. So Fox News still reporting on the president's first 100 days. You see BBC's got him coming out. MSNBC's not talking about it. We got still some clips and some roundups. So we're just waiting for the president to get out there. CNN's got for us Trump's approach to the presidency has, put the U.S. at risk unnecessarily. Look, BBC's the only one covering the president, for crying out loud. Good Lord. All right. So the mainstream media is in America is pretty dang bad. Here's what we've got over here from C-SPAN. Trump making his way to the podium. Look at the crowd, baby. And you'll notice how conveniently this was timed. We appreciate the president for scheduling this during our showtime, our regular showtime. We do have some other stuff to get to, but of course, this is live. So we'll see how long the president goes. We'll celebrate together, and then we'll round it out with a couple of short stories, time provided. Now, quick note, my friend. So scheduling note, tomorrow and Thursday, we're going to be doing one stream a day rather than the two streams, the Membo and the regular stream. So we'll be back tomorrow, one stream in the morning, 12 noon Eastern. And then on Thursday, we're back at the regular time. Your boy's got to make a trip down to the Valley. And so that's where I will be. But we will be back tomorrow. So short time from now, 12 noon Eastern time. So 9 a.m. my time tomorrow. And then Thursday, regular time for the show. So just a little bit of a housekeeping update there while we're waiting for the president to take the podium. So looking good. All right, let's check back in with the president. There he is. Hey, turn that flag up around there.
Wow.
You.
Hello.
Turn that right side up.
Hello, Michigan.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you very much. Hello, Michigan. Hello, we love you, Michigan.
Hello, Mr. President. Great to see you.
We just had the biggest victory in Michigan. They said, sir, it's going to be hard. Well, we won it twice. We actually won it 3 times. You want to really know it? But I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state. I love this state. Got a lot of auto jobs coming. Watch what's happening. The companies are coming in by the tens. You got to see what's happening. They all want to come back to Michigan and build cars again. You know why? Because of our tax and tariff policy. They're coming from all over the world.
It's rowdy
they're coming
there.
up and they're opening up plants and they're talking to us all day and all night. They want to get here and they're coming in at levels you've never seen before. And I want to thank the auto workers for your support. That was great.
Here's what the cables look like.
But I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. And we're here tonight in the heartland of our nation to celebrate the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country. And that's according to many, many people.
In the history of the galaxy.
This is the best, they say, 100-day start of any president in history, and everyone is saying it. We've just gotten started. You haven't even seen anything yet. It's all just kicking in. And week by week, we're ending illegal immigration. We're taking back our jobs and protecting our great American auto workers and all of our workers, frankly. We're protecting all of our workers. We're restoring the rule of law, which was sort of out the window with this crazy guy we had. How the hell did that guy ever become president? Could somebody explain to me? How the hell did that happen? There's my friend, Blacks for Trump. I like that guy. I'm like, he follows me. He follows me. We love you. Your whole group has been so supportive over the years. I want to thank you. Everyone thinks I pay you a fortune. I don't know. I don't even know who the hell he is. I just like him. True. Thank you very much. Thank all of the fellas. Thank them all. But we're ending the inflation nightmare, the worst that we've had probably in the history of our country, getting woke lunacy and transgender insanity the hell out of our government.
Get it out of here.
We're stopping the indoctrination of our children, slashing billions and billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. And above all, we're saving the American dream. We're making America great again, and it's happening fast, too. What the world has witnessed in the past 14 weeks is a revolution of common sense. That's all it is, really. We're conservative.
Basically, yeah. Common sense.
You're conservative, you're liberal, whatever the hell. You know what it's all about? It's about common sense when you think about it. We're for common sense. We like strong borders. We like good education. We like low interest rates. We like being able to buy a beautiful car. And now deduct the interest on the loan. That's never happened before.
Let's do it. New cars, baby.
We want a strong military. We want low taxes. You know, the Democrats, they campaign on, we will raise your taxes. It's the first time. You know, I haven't been doing this that long, actually, compared to a lot of people. They've been doing it for a long time. They say, you became president. I can't get out of Congress, or some of them can't even get into Congress. But, you know, I haven't been doing it that long, but all my life I've been watching. And I've never heard people campaigning that they're going to raise taxes. It's always been, we will reduce your taxes, Democrat, Republican. Now they go, we're going to raise your taxes. If our bill doesn't pass, the Republicans, we have 100% just about Republican support, but it would be nice if we had just a couple of Democrats just to make sure, because, you know, every once in a while you have a grandstander Republican. We have some grandstanders, but every once in a while, not many, but remember who those grandstanders were and vote them the hell out of office, okay? Will you do that?
He's talking about Thomas Massey. Now, I think they're playing a little game.
You know, they do it they're morally bound. You know what the answer is? If you don't get it, you're going to have the highest tax increase in history instead of the greatest tax cut in history. If the Democrats prevail on this bill, you get a 58% tax increase. Would you like that?
No.
These are the Democrats.
No.
But I've never seen all the years they campaign, we will raise your taxes. I say, this country has gone crazy. And today they did it again. Some guy that I'd never heard of. John James, is he a congressman, this guy? He said, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to start the impeachment of Donald Trump. What the hell did I do? Here we go again. They want to impeach me. This lunatic.
He is. Shree.
This lunatic, he was up. Actually, I had the television way down, and I said to our great First Lady, listen, did I just hear I was being impeached again? We're getting good at this, though.
Yeah, who cares?
No, they've gone totally crazy. These people, and you know what? They've totally lost their confidence, too. They can't even tell a lunatic like this dumb guy that said it.
No.
And then you have the other one that's always with the cane. He's always impeaching. He raises his cane. He always impeaches. But they have no control over those people. They have no control. And the reason is they've lost their confidence. They have no confidence anymore
Trump
as a party.
disabled
They have no
people.
candidates. And you know, when they say that Bernie's probably the best they have. By the way, he's about 7 years older than me, more, 8 years older. One thing I got to give him credit, he's a lunatic, but he's still pretty sharp.
Yeah, he keeps going.
And he's going around with AOC +3. You know, the +3 follow him.
The squad.
They hang on for little bits. They hang on for nuggets. And they get crowds. They say, oh, our crowds are so much bigger than their crowds. Their crowds are small. If I ever had a crowd like their biggest crowd, they'd say it's over for Trump. He's lost the magic. But this is great. And all the people outside, we love you. We put screens up. We're taking back our country from a sick political class that got rich selling America out and bleeding America dry. We don't let that happen anymore. And we had 4 great years. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. The stock market went up 88%. We did great. And we're going to do better now, because now we learned a little bit. After years of leaders who sent your money to defend the borders of distant foreign nations, that's what we did. We'd fight for other nations, but not for ourselves. You finally have a president who is defending our borders and our nation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Happened quickly, too.
After decades of politicians who destroyed Detroit to build up Beijing, you finally have a champion for workers in the White House. And instead of putting China first, I'm putting Michigan first, and I'm putting America first.
Thank you, Mr. President. Here's the cables. MSNBC talking over him.
After a lifetime of unelected bureaucrats stealing your paychecks, attacking your values, and trampling your freedoms, we're stopping their gravy train and their power trip and telling thousands of corrupt, incompetent, and unnecessary deep state bureaucrats, you're fired. Get the hell out of here.
Get out of here!
Get out of here.
Ah! Get out.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years. I read an editorial today that this is the most consequential presidency in history. How about that? And it wasn't even by a group that would normally be supporting us. It was a group of people that I think they tend to be on the liberal side, but they said it's the most important election. The November 5th, it changed it all. You have to see, when you hear some of these numbers, but that is the most consequential election that we've ever had in our country. And what a nice thing. I'm going to start again subscribing to that particular paper. Even if I don't read it much, I'm going to subscribe. But it was a very nice compliment, especially from them. They know who I'm talking about. We're ushering out the long reign of special interests and the radical left lunatics, and we're ushering in the golden age of America. That's what we have.
Let's go. Let's go.
Right? Front row Joe. Look at you, front row Joes. I miss you guys. I miss the campaign. You haven't changed.
It was fun.
You've lost a couple of pounds. Oh, he's probably getting to one of those jabbers. You lost a couple of pounds.
A jabber?
And I have Mr. Wall here.
Oh,
This guy. How many rallies have you gone to? Like hundreds, and we love him here. The Wall. One day I'm gonna get that suit and I'm gonna wear it on stage.
Brick suit. Brick suit.
We appreciate it, fellas. Great.
What's up, Brick
Thank
suit?
You know, we have a group of ladies. I don't know if they're here, but we have a group of women from North Carolina, a large group, like 50, the most beautiful women, and they've been to 129 rallies. They're happily married, I think, too. They just keep going to rallies all the time. But they're great. North Carolina, where we won by big numbers. Nowhere has this transformation been more dramatic than our southern border. You have seen a change on your southern border that Sleepy Joe said couldn't happen. Sleepy Joe, the worst president in history, said it couldn't happen. The last administration engineered a massive border invasion, allowing gangs, cartels, and terrorists to infiltrate our communities and rape and murder our citizens. And that is being nice about it. That's actually being nice about it. They are the worst. But standing before you today, I can proudly report that this heinous betrayal is over and that we have achieved the most secure border in American history by far. In American history.
Happened fast. They got that done.
For 2 months in a row, we have now set all-time records, and this is by the media, the fake news media, which most of it is fake.
It's true.
We've set all-time records for the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded. Think of that, ever recorded. The number of illegal border crossers released into the United States is down, listen to this, please,
Yes.
99.999%.
Oh, Mr. President!
Think of that, 99.999.
It is crazy. Just enforcement. Just enforce the law.
3 people got in. 3.
How?
And I got angry as hell at Tom Homan. How did you allow 3, Tom? I called up Kristi. Kristi Noem's doing a great job, Tom Homan.
What the hell happened
I
here?
said, how did you allow 3 people? No, they allowed a few in for medical reasons. They honestly, they had a couple of were very sick. The ones that got in were really very sick, and we had to take care of them. But it was a few people. But 3 people got in versus hundreds of thousands in the last administration. Hundreds of thousands a month were pouring in. Biden had no control.
Invasion.
Thank goodness he appointed a great border czar, right? Kamala. She was a great candidate.
You're not.
She was fantastic. Joe Biden was down 35 points. The debate was not a good one for him.
No.
He said, you know, if I didn't debate, I could have gone all the way. He was down 35 points, and they decided to replace him. Nothing ever happens. Like what happens to me, it never happens
It was
to anybody
crazy.
else.
Yeah, it's true.
I had to beat 2 candidates. So he's down. This is like you're in a fight. Dana White, the UFC, you're in a fight, and you're just beating the guy so badly, and they say, oh, let's put in another fighter. That's what happened.
Right, you're in the 6th round.
And I knew nothing about her. She was vice president, but nobody knew a damn thing about her. She had nothing to do with the border, even though she was appointed border czar. The great people, all of the great people, Paul and all of the border patrol people, they never spoke to her. They never heard about her. For 4 years, she never called. But there's never been such a difference in anything as the difference between the border today and the border what it was just 6 months ago. So I want to say congratulations, America. It's about time.
It is. Thank you, Mr. President and Trump administration.
If we had not won the 2024 election, oh, does that sound good, right? We won the 24, all that way.
Yeah.
The radical left Democrats would right now be importing the next 10 million invaders and giving amnesty to 30 or 40 million illegals, many of them criminals, many of them, frankly, murderers and people of crime at the absolute highest level. Real bad people. It would only be a matter of years or months until America itself became a failed third world nation. That was happening to us. We're going to be a third world nation. I'll tell you what, if these guys won, if this group of radical lunatics, and by the way, you know, Biden, we find out that whoever operated the auto pen was the real president, and Biden knew nothing about it. You know, he had a group of radical left guys who were very smart, and a woman, a particular woman. Very, very smart people. These are not stupid people. These are sick people, but they're not stupid people. And they were very smart. What they're best at is cheating at election. They cheat on elections. That's their single greatest trait. They cheat like hell. And let me tell you, they tried to cheat on this election, but we made it too big to rig. Remember? Too big to rig.
Heck yeah, we did. We voted hard, extra hard.
I watched those numbers. We had Elon with us. Elon is a smart guy. Elon was with us. Elon Musk. And I was sitting with Dana White and Elon Musk, and I'm watching the numbers in Pennsylvania, and we're winning so easily. Then all of a sudden it flatlined. And I said, you know, I think they're cheating again. Look at this. What's going on? I think they're cheating again. And Elon looked at us. He goes, no, you're going to win. They just don't know it yet. And about 15 minutes later, we won, you know, sort of crazy. I'll never forget. You're going to win. They just don't know it yet. But you know what? We made it too big to rig. It was too big. Starting on day one, I deployed the U.S. military to defend our country from the invasion of our border. I shut down all migrant flights. Do you remember when we're talking about people coming in, they're trying to deny it, okay? So people are flowing in. They say, no, I don't see any people. It's like, what's wrong? But then we saw airplanes going overhead. We said, what the hell are those airplanes doing? Big Boeing 757s were traveling right overhead, loaded up with people.
Yeah, Uber illegal.
They say, where the hell are those planes going? They were loaded up with migrants coming in illegally, flying in by plane, paid for by the U.S. government. I'll tell you, they are sick. Remember that day? That was the day we found out that not only do we have to defend it here, we have to defend it not only in the water, but we have to defend it in the air. The planes were going over us. I said, what the hell is that? I banned all welfare to illegals, and I signed an order that will end automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens.
We read those here.
No citizenship.
14th Amendment.
Joe Biden and the media told us that stopping the flood of illegal immigration was absolutely impossible. He said it was impossible. He didn't know what the hell anybody was talking about. He said it was impossible, that the president had no power to stop what was needed in the form of legislation. He needed legislation. He had no power to get it. But it turned out that all we needed was a new president. Within days of taking office, I signed the Laken Riley Act. Laken Riley, beautiful Laken Riley, who was killed by an illegal immigrant, viciously, violently killed. But I signed the Laken Riley Act to facilitate the expulsion of dangerous criminal aliens, and when necessary, we had to put them in jail. We couldn't take a chance that they'd come back in again. In recent weeks, ICE, who are great, these people are great, has arrested dozens of child rapists, along with murderers, kidnappers, drug traffickers, and thieves, and frankly, people from mental institutions. We've designated 6 murderous Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We have also designated 2 bloodthirsty transnational gangs, MS-13 and Trendiaragua, TDA. They've been designated the highest level of terrorists, and that lets us do a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to do. We got to get them out of here before they kill more people. They've killed plenty. My administration has increased arrests of known and suspected terrorists by 655%. Is that okay? We tried to get it higher.
Good number. Yeah, good number.
We tried to get it higher, but the courts are giving us a hard time. Can you believe? You know, I won on the basis of, I think the number one thing was on illegal immigration, the border, the people pouring across our border that are from all over the world. They're unbelievably bad. In many cases, unbelievably bad people. I think that was the number one thing. And now the courts are trying to say that, you know, that doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to be allowed to stand. Democrats have vowed mass invasion and mass migration. We are delivering mass deportation, and it's happening very fast.
Nice.
And the worst of the worst are being sent to a no-nonsense prison in El Salvador. Why don't you watch this? Watch this. Take a look.
You got a movie time? Okay, here's what Fox is showing us. Top left. There it goes. Judge Zenas is unhappy about this. DC District Court judges losing their minds right now. him out. Load him up. Song makes me want to go bench press. Yeah! Take it back, America, baby. Gangbangers afuera. Afuera. Get it off. Cut it off. Cut it off.
César Eliseo Soto Maya.
There are Democrat judges melting down right now. ACLU lawyers, the ACLU lawyers are having a heart attack. It's like that scene from Star Wars. 10,000 ACLU lawyers cried out in the night. Get him out! Get him out! Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, Trump doesn't care what the screeching sounds like from the other side. They're getting him out,
So
not backing down at all.
Trump, America is a dumping ground for criminals no longer. They're not even trying to come in. But while we're fighting to protect Americans, the radical left Democrats, who are so bad for this country, are fighting to protect TDA, you just saw that, and MS-13 criminals, and you don't even know which is worse, but they are the top of the line. For years, Democrat politicians did not raise one word of protest as American women and girls were raped and slaughtered by these monsters. They were raped and slaughtered by numbers that you don't even want to hear about. But the second we try to deport them, the radical Democrat Party is racing to the defense of some of the most violent savages on the face of the earth. Who the hell would vote for these people? They're racing to the courts to help them, but this is not what the people want. This is not what they voted for in record numbers. I won the election. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. And we got 312 electoral college votes.
And they're trying to deny.
And just this month, two Venezuelan members of TDA, Nicaragua, were arrested in Washington state for kidnapping a 58-year-old woman driving a power drill through her hand to extort her bank account information, shooting her, leaving her for dead. And miraculously, she just survived, but she's
praise God,
not feeling so well.
No.
In January, Nicaragua member in Chicago kidnapped 3 women, took them in an alley, lined them up, and shot them each in the head. They all died. And the FBI recently assessed that these vicious gangs have been sent by the foreign regime in Venezuela to foment violence and instability in the United States of America. Can't let that happen.
I thought they were barbers.
And it's not just, in all fairness, not Venezuela. It's all over the world. It's all over. They come in from the Congo. They come in from Africa. The Congo, they emptied out their prisons into our country. But they come from Africa, Asia, South America. They come from all over bad parts of Europe. That's why we've invoked the Alien Enemies Act to expel every foreign terrorist from our soil as quickly as possible.
Here's what the cable's got. Fox
Never
only.
forget the same people that we now claim we're not gonna. We're just not taking this crap anymore. We can't.
No, we can't take it.
They're claiming that we're not allowed to deport illegals, and they're the ones who orchestrated an 8-year campaign to jail their political opponents. Do you know what I mean? They want to jail They want to jail. That's all they can do, jail their political opponents. What they did to people is a disgrace. And now they come after us. Why are you not nice to them? Why are you not nice to them? They tried to jail your president.
Yeah,
they tried to jail.
That's why.
Except for the really courageousness of a few very good judges, you know, we could have been calling you from the other side of the bar saying, hey, fellas, how about a little protest?
Judge Cannon.
How about a little protest? But they cheered the assassination of CEOs, looted our cities, and destroyed our property. No, they tried to jail our politicians, and they tried to jail a lot of people, many of whom didn't even know what the hell they were being looked at for. These people are criminals. If they had their way, we would be living in a third world hellhole. That's what they want. Removing the invaders is not just a campaign pledge. It's my solemn duty as commander-in-chief. I have an obligation to do it.
You do.
Save our
Why we
country.
elected you, sir.
And that's why we got, despite the fake polls, you know, they do these polls where they interview far more Democrats than Republicans. I saw them over the last few days, and I had them checked out. They interview far more Democrats for the polls. They interview Democrats by big numbers and then Republicans by small. They say, Trump only has a 44% approval rating. Well, it's actually not bad. But when you figure that if it were a legit poll, it would be in the 60s or 70s. These people are a bunch of crooked people. No, they interview more Democrats than Republicans. In other words, they take the poll and they interview Democrats. They poll Democrats. And then they say, they try and depress it as much, just like they write bad stories. 97% of the stories written about me, think of it, were negative. And yet we won in a landslide because
nobody believes them. They're losing their credibility. It's been the same pattern. We talked about this morning on Locals. Every headline is just anti-Trump.
And also, we cannot allow a handful of communist, radical left judges to obstruct the enforcement of our laws and assume the duties that belong solely to the President of the United States. Judges are trying to take away the power given to the President to keep our country safe, and it's not a good thing. But I hope, for the sake of our country, that the Supreme Court is going to save this, because we have to do something. These people are just looking to destroy our country.
Out of control.
Nothing will stop me in the mission to keep America safe again. It's very simple. Keep America safe again.
Talking to you, John Roberts, Amy Coney Barrett.
And our first 100 days have also produced historic results in the battle to defeat Biden's inflation disaster and bring jobs and wealth back to America and bring them back to Michigan. Okay, we want to bring it back.
Trump is jazzed up, man. He's got energy.
As an example, since I took office, the cost of eggs is down 87%. Now, right?
I just had eggs for breakfast.
Remember a few weeks ago, before Thanksgiving, before we heard about it, before I heard about it a long time ago, before Thanksgiving, I heard about it. And then I was hearing that I wasn't president. This guy was barely president. Nobody knew, was he president? Who the hell was president? To this day, I say it was the one that operated the auto pen, but what do I know? But I was hearing about eggs, and then all of a sudden we have a great election victory. And my first week in office, they start screaming at me, what about the price of eggs, eggs, eggs? I said, I've only been here for 6 days. I was there 6 days.
Chill out.
I said, what's wrong with eggs? They said, the price of eggs has gone through the roof and you won't be able to have them for Easter. So I put a very capable Brooke Rollins, who's our wonderful commissioner of agriculture that you know in Michigan. I said, Brooke, I've only been here 6 days before I heard, maybe even less, maybe 5, maybe 4. But it was my first week. And I said, Brooke, you got to save me here. I'm getting killed about eggs. What the hell's going on with eggs? She said, well, you can't get them. The price is through the roof. And it looks like we're going to have a real problem for Easter. You're not going to have eggs. I said, Brooke, that doesn't sound politically viable to me. That doesn't sound good. Because nobody's going to believe me when you get out there that it's Sleepy Joe Biden's fault. So, Brooke, you got to get going, Brooke, please. And she did a great job. And you had so many eggs for Easter, and your price was down 87% from
It was
that
great
point.
Easter, Mr. President. Thank you for the eggs. Here's the cables.
Prices are coming way down. You know, the fake news doesn't say. They said, he pledged. Now, I pledged safe borders. I pledged all sorts of things. But they said, he pledged to bring prices down. Well, that's what I've done. They're trying to say the prices have gone up. Your energy, your car, your gasoline, they have 3 states this week, a couple of days ago, that were $1.98 a gallon.
That's cheap, man.
So gasoline prices are down by a lot. Energy prices are down. Mortgage rates actually just went down. Prescription drug prices just saw their largest monthly decline ever recorded. How about that? Remember what you heard. Prescription drug prices just took the biggest plunge ever since they've recorded the prices, which have basically gone up, except for my 4 years. They did pretty well. But we got to know that system. The system is a bad system. But they just took the biggest dive ever in the history of prescription drug prices. Think of that. That's a big thing. I got to say it again and again, because they will never tell you that. The fake news will never tell you that. Grocery prices have gone down. Everything's gone down. And yet I saw this person on MSDNC, which I think is probably even worse than CNN. It's probably worse. Probably worse than CNN. But I saw this horrible, horrible anchor. How these people get jobs. I wouldn't hire them to do the most menial of chores. But I saw this person. He campaigned on bringing prices down. Every price has gone down. What am I going to do? I mean, think of it. Gasoline was almost $4 not so long ago. And now, Mike, we just hit $1.98 in a lot of states. Think of it. And
That's
saying, and you know what? And inflation is basically down. And interest rates came down despite the fact that I have a Fed person who's not really doing a good job. But I won't say that. I want to be very nice. I want to be very nice and respectful to the Fed. You're not supposed to criticize the Fed. You're supposed to let him do his own thing. But I know much more than he does about interest rates, believe me.
Yes, don't.
Core inflation has reached
Fed.
the lowest rate in 4 years. And last month, we had the largest drop in consumer prices since the pandemic. This is all done in 100 days.
Ooh, California's expensive out there.
Think of that. This is all done in 100 days. But when you watch the fake news, you see fake polls. Again, they poll more Democrats than Republicans. Democrats aren't going to say, I'm going to vote for Trump. And we still got 45, 44%. But on the legitimate polls, I think we're in the 60s. I think we're in the 60s or 70s or something. In 3 months, we have created 350,000 jobs. Think of that. For the first time in recent memory, job gains for native-born Americans now exceed job gains for foreign workers. This is for the first time, and nobody even knows when, Americans now are doing better than foreign workers. How about that? I mean, that's okay. I want everyone to do well, but that's okay. And to curb inflation, we're cutting a record number of job-killing regulations. We beat in the 4-year first administration, which was a tremendous success. We cut more regulations than any president in history, including 2-term presidents, including Roosevelt, who was more than a 2-term president. We cut more regulations than any president in history in 1 term, and now our 2nd term. And, you know, I don't know why. It was so important to win because they used to say, the fake news, to be a great president, you have to serve 2 terms. So now we're going to serve 2 terms. Now they've taken that one. Cross. Right? Right, Dr. Oz? Cross that one off. Cross that one off. No, they say it all the time. When I was out, they say, well, they go, thank you. Thank you. Sure. But we've ended the radical left. Well, we actually already served 3, but if you count. But remember, I like the victories. I like the 3 victories, which we absolutely had. I just don't like the results of the middle term. The results.
Not good.
I don't want those results, John.
Bad.
I don't want those results.
It was bad.
What results? What a disgrace. If we would have had this group for another year, we wouldn't have a country left. I really mean it. I don't think we would have had a country left. And now we're respected all over the world. They're coming from all over the world to see you, President. They're coming from India. They're coming from France. They're coming from Spain. Yeah, they're coming from China, too. Yeah, they're coming from China. They're coming from all over the world to see you, President. They want to make a deal. They want to make a deal. And, you know, we'll make deals, but we don't have to. We are the ones that have the product. We are the ones at the United States. They want a piece of our product. We can just set the price, but I want to be respectful and I want to be nice. But if it takes too long, I'll just set a price. Say, you could buy or you don't have to buy. We lost, think of this, we lost billions and billions of dollars a day. Billions, not millions, billions of dollars a day. And under Sleepy Joe Biden. What's better, Crooked Joe or Sleepy Joe? Ready? A poll, a free poll. Because these pollsters are so corrupt. This is a real poll. We're going to poll.
Okay, make your vote.
Crooked Joe or Sleepy Joe. Ready? What's a better name for us to call him? Sleepy Joe?
Yeah!
Or Crooked Joe?
I think Crookeds have it. I think the Crookeds have it. I think I would have gone with Sleepy, though. I think the Crookeds have it, though. I would have voted for Sleepy.
I'm not surprised. It happens. I sort of loved Sleepy Joe. You
Yeah,
know,
me
just
too.
Had a nice ring to him.
Me too.
Because he had one ability I didn't have. He goes to the beach, right?
Yeah.
And he could fall asleep on a cottage, drooling out of the side of his mouth, and he'd be sleeping within minutes, carrying the aluminum chair, you know, the kind that's meant for old people and children to carry. It weighs like about 4 ounces. And he couldn't get his feet out of the sand. And he'd sleep, he'd fall in this thing, and with it, and he'd have, you know, he's president, so you'd have cameras. He'd be in a bathing suit. Somebody convinced him that he looks great in a bathing suit. He's 82 years old. Cary Grant didn't look great in a bathing suit when he was 82. You don't look great. You know, at some point you have other assets, okay? But that's not real. But he'd go and he'd walk in the sand and he'd fall into that thing, and within seconds he was sleeping. I'd be tossing and turning
amazing,
and
yeah.
scheming and thinking and saying, how am I going to beat China? How am I going to stop the war with Russia and Ukraine?
It's true. It's hard to relax. I
This
can't
guy
go to the
could
beach.
fall
It's
asleep
ridiculous.
with cameras blazing, right? Not too many cameras were blazing, but enough were blazing that you saw it. I thought it was a great ability that he had, actually. We've ended the radical left war on American energy. We've stopped their crusade on coal. Did you see what I did the other day? Clean, beautiful coal. I said, you're not allowed to use the word coal unless you say clean, beautiful coal. So you have guys getting up, Department of Energy. We have great people at Department of Energy. They talk about clean, beautiful coal. You know, China uses coal. They're opening up a coal plant every week, a massive coal plant, but we're not allowed to use it. But now we are, because last week I gave it absolute, total approval. And you know what I don't give approval to? Those stupid windmills that go round and
Kill the
round
birds.
and round.
Turn into garbage and litter.
And we've ended the Green New scam. We've reopened Anwar, the greatest drilling site anywhere in the world, in Alaska, and implemented the new energy policy of the United States. You know what it is? We have a policy. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. That's our
Let's
policy.
go. Woo, let's get that oil, baby.
That's our policy, Michael, right? Great Michael Watley, head of the Republican Party. He's done a good job. Him and Laura, they took the party by storm, right? He had a good candidate, but had a couple of good candidates, didn't he? Michael's been incredible, actually. Michael Watley, North Carolina. He watched in 2020. He did so good for me. And, you know, he was in North Carolina. He did so great. What's the problem over there? What's the problem? Is that a radical left lunatic? He's just a child. All right, get him out. Yeah.
Get him out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ma'am. I thought it was a guy. Thank you.
Hard to tell. You don't want to misgender anybody. You got to get him out of here.
And she now has to go home to a mother who's a big Trump fan.
Oh, go
Her
home to
mother's
mommy.
watching.
Go home to mommy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said he and it's a she. I'm sorry.
Hard to tell with that party. You never know.
To keep my promise to the great state of Michigan, I terminated Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate where you were mandated to buy an electric vehicle. You were mandated within just a few years to buy an electric vehicle. How about that? And you know what? They're great, but people don't. Not everybody wants them. You got to be able to buy a hybrid, a gasoline-powered car. You can buy lots of different cars, but you can't be mandated to do anything. And I've already proudly imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles. Any foreign car, like they do to us. This is going to create more jobs in this state and this country. And to help these automakers bring their factories home as rapidly as possible, I've just signed an executive order to give partial tariff rebates to any company that assembles its cars right here in the U.S. In other words, if they can't make it in time because they have to do it here, otherwise they haven't, I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right? They took in parts from all over the world. I don't want that. I want them to make their parts here. But I gave them a little bit of time. It's 15% and then 10% of the parts. So it's not so bad. Somebody would say, oh, well, that's a change in parts. It's not. It's called a little flexibility. The guys were crying. They love it. Everything's good. But just in case we can't get everything in time, we gave them a little bit. So it's 15% of the parts and then it's 10% of the
not
parts.
trying to destroy
we give them a
anybody.
little time before we slaughter them if they don't do this. Right. They're going to make so much money. They're going to have so many jobs. No, but jobs are way up. Jobs are way up. We're pleased to be joined tonight by Brian Pennebacker. Do you know who that is?
What's up, Brian?
Workers for Trump. And Brian is a union guy, loves the unions, loves everything, but he knew that Trump was right. Brian, come up here, Brian. I got to see Brian. Look at the arms in this guy. Look at the arms. Thank you, Mr. President.
What's up, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be here on your 100th day in office of your second term. And I just want to remind you of something I told you at one of your last rallies before the election. I've got it on video. I've watched it dozens of times at home. After I was able to speak, I turned to you and I said, Mr. President, Macomb County is going to win Michigan for you.
Let's go, Macomb County.
And that's exactly what happened. We had a margin of victory of 70,000 votes in this county alone.
Thanks for delivering that.
Thank you, Macomb County.
Thank you, Macomb.
You know, I met President Trump 8 years ago in Novi, and we had never met before. And as I was stepping towards him backstage to get my picture taken, I knew I only had 10, 15 seconds to say something to him before we got our pictures. Fortunately, my son was standing behind me, so I've got a witness to this. And I said, Mr. Trump, we've got the keys to the White House waiting for you in Macomb County. And he kind of chuckled. He said, oh, yeah, how's that? And I said, well, Macomb County is the home of the Reagan Democrats. If you come to Macomb County and you ask for their support and you get it, you might win Macomb County big enough to carry the whole state of Michigan. And that's exactly what he did. So I want to say thank you to the auto workers, everybody who works in the automotive field, the suppliers, every one of you, the truck drivers. Thank you so much for supporting the greatest president in our lifetimes.
We love our truck drivers here, man. Truck drivers get picked on. I represented a lot of truck drivers in my day.
Now, I've got a little business announcement I want to make. I hope the president doesn't mind. But when I was backstage with him earlier and got my picture taken, I said, Mr. President, I've got a deal that you can't refuse. And he said, what's that? And I said, well, I'm writing a book, and it's going to be about my political journey. I've been involved in some things here in Michigan, conservative causes like right to work and the Michigan Civil Rights Initiative. And I said, you have a publishing company, Winning Team Publishing. It's run by Don Jr. and his partner. I said, I'll agree to use your publishing company if you agree to write the foreword to my book. He stuck out his hand and said, I'll do it.
Wow.
That's how you negotiate with the best negotiator in the world. So listen, I got one last thing to say. All of us have a job to do. Number one, we have to win the 2026 elections. It has to happen. Sri Thanadar, that lunatic Democrat from Detroit, is already threatening to impeach President Trump if they get the majority back. But luckily, right now, we've got good people in Congress like Congressman John James over here who are stopping that from happening. But listen up. So we got to get out, and we don't have any time to waste. We got to start talking to our friends, our neighbors, our family, our coworkers. The campaign for 2026 starts tomorrow. We've got to win that election. So the work is not over. The work has just begun. November 5th was not the end. It was the beginning of the golden age. And let's all tell President Trump how much we support what he's done the first 100 days in office.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I forgot. There's one other thing I wanted to say in front of all these thousands of people to President Trump. President Trump, I love you.
Oh. We love you back.
Thank you. Good man. He's a great guy. You know, he was with me from day one, 2015, before 2016. Wow. He was there from day one. He got it. He said, we're losing our car industry. That's what he really cared about. He just said, I've had so many friends who were laid off. It's horrible. They lay us off like it's nothing. And the business went to China, it went to Japan, went to all countries all over the world. They're laying us off, sir. And he said, we can solve that. I told him, we can solve that so fast. He's one of the early people that got it. And we've solved it. We're going to be doing numbers that nobody's ever believed. We'll be the #1 in the world again. Nobody can believe it because we have been beaten up so badly by these countries that have rigged the whole thing. They fight like hell. They're smart. Their product is good, but our product's going to be a lot better. We're going to do something that nobody believes. And he saw it right at the beginning. So I appreciate it, Brian. And he was there at the I love the guys from the beginning. I love those early guys. Those guys are right there. They were there from the beginning. No, you're going to see numbers, and you're already seeing them. Look, you know, we have many Hondas coming in, and they're coming in. We let them build their cars here. We don't want them to build them in Japan. Yeah, we love Japan. We don't want them building them in Japan. We want them to build them here. We want China to build them in here. We want them all to build them right in here. That's what they've done to us for 40 years, and they've drained us. Now we're doing it to them at a better level than they ever dreamed possible. To further rebuild the industrial bedrock of our country, I've imposed 25% tariffs on foreign aluminum and steel. It's keeping our steel mills going. I did that. If I didn't do that with steel in the my first term, we wouldn't have a steel mill in the United States right now, and everybody knows that. I did it for washing machines too, by the way. That's why I asked the people at Whirlpool. They were going to close. They were in deep trouble. I did it because they were dumping machines. I did a 50% tariff. Was going to raise it to 100%. They didn't even have to bother. They became a tremendously successful company overnight. They were ready to close. They came to me with tears in their eyes in my office early on, first term. And we're doing it now at levels never seen before. And the results are going to be even better, because we've been abused by friend and foe. And in many cases, friend has abused us more so than foe on trade.
Yeah, because you trust your friends.
So I want to just let you know, you're going to be very proud of this country very soon. And with my China tariffs, we're ending the greatest job theft in the history of the world. China's taken more jobs from us than any country has ever taken from another country. And that doesn't mean we're not going to get along. We get along with China. I mean, their tariff now is at a 145%. So essentially, that's a big difference between that and zero.
Yeah, they can work with us.
But I think it's going to work out. They want to make a deal, and we're going to make a deal, but it's going to be a fair deal. It's not going to be a deal that we lose $1 trillion a year like they did with Biden. That guy was so bad. He was so bad under Biden. And remember this, we were losing $5 billion a day on trade, and now we're making money. We're actually making money instead of, do you know what 5 billion? Think of it, Mike, how many pillows do you have to make to lose $5 billion? You could make them for
Lindell,
1,000 years.
Is there?
No, we were losing $5 billion a year. Now we've got it where we're making money, and the tariffs haven't even really kicked in. The 25% on cars have. But you know what that means? That means that you're going to make the cars. We don't need the cars from outside. When they say, oh, sir, we want to send you a lot of cars. I said, we really don't want your cars. We really don't want. We want to make our own cars. That includes Canada. That includes Mexico, who have taken a tremendous amount of our business. Canada's taken off a tremendous, like 10, 12%. Mexico is 32%. They took 32% of our car production. We don't want them to have that. We want that. Why are we giving it to them? Why are we subsidizing Canada $200 billion a year? Why are we subsidizing Mexico for $300 billion a year? There's no reason for it. I'm proud to be the president for the workers and not the outsourcers, the president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street.
Thank you, Mr.
I like
President.
Wall Street.
Yes, thank you.
I like Wall Street. I have a gorgeous, beautiful building on Wall Street, 40 Wall Street. Anybody? You want a little space? I'll get you some space real quickly. Now I've got one of the most beautiful buildings in the world on Wall Street, but I still like Main Street because you're Main Street. I want Main Street over Wall Street. And we want to protect the middle class, not the political class. That's all.
Nice.
I haven't done this very long. We want to protect our people. You know, this is the greatest, when you think about this, look, here we are. It's not even like election. It's after the election. And you have crowds like this, and to have them. We're going to do the commencement at University of Alabama. And they just called and they said, it's going to be the biggest crowd we've ever had we've never had a crowd like this. And I'm doing it at West Point, and they called and said the same thing. We love West Point. We love University of Alabama. We love Alabama. You know what I won Alabama by? Like almost 50 points. So when they called and they said, would you like to do the commencement? I said, okay, I'll do it. But they're going to have the biggest crowd they ever had by maybe 4 or 5 times. They told me, thanks for all of the things that we've done and to our policies. Trillions of dollars are now pouring into the United States because of common sense, just common sense. Apple, great company, was building everything in China. Now they just announced that they're spending $500 billion to invest in America.
Thank you, Apple, for doing that. Going to be a
My
smart
friend
business
Jensen
decision.
from NVIDIA, they're spending, you know what NVIDIA is? They're spending $500 billion. TSMC, the biggest chip maker in the world by far from Taiwan, they're spending $200 billion in the United States. Amazon, $21 billion. Johnson & Johnson, $55 billion. The Mac, $20 billion. Merck, Stellantis, General Motors are putting in billions and billions of dollars.
Good numbers.
And many other companies. And as a result of our policies, for the first time in modern history, more Americans believe that our country is headed in the right direction than the wrong direction. They have a poll, a crazy poll, probably a fake poll too, so I don't know, I don't care. But first time ever, I think ever, that they're saying the country is headed in the right direction. Has never happened before. I don't know why.
Because it is.
But we've accomplished more in 3 months than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or even 8 years. And we're just getting started. Believe me, we're just getting started. We're pleased to be joined by some great people. A person that number one, I have so much confidence in him. The fake news is after him, really after him, but he's a tough cookie. They don't know how tough he is, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
That's what we thought. Pete's in the house.
Wow, that's pretty good. How are the Houthis doing? Not too good, right? They're not. Our new administrator of the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, somebody that everybody knows, but this guy, you know, the show was a big success, but sometimes it hurts your image to have a television show. He's the top, I mean, he went to Harvard. I shouldn't even mention that anymore because that used to be a good thing. Today it doesn't mean much
anymore.
But he went to University of Pennsylvania Medical School, top student, top doctor, top everything. One of the smartest guys in medicine, also a big star, Dr. Mehmet Oz.
Dr. Oz.
Thank you, doctor.
In the house.
Thank you. A man who waited today just came here. He was all sweaty and grimy. I said, what the hell happened? He ran into the building because he wanted to vote in Congress. And I hear we passed the vote, John James, by a lot, right? And thank you for making it here. He had a vote. I said, John, do me a favor, stay and vote. We're voting essentially on the big, beautiful, that gorgeous, big, beautiful bill. I said, you know, I want you there badly, but you got to vote, please. So thank you very much, John. Good job. Michigan House Speaker Matt Hall. Matt, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Michigan Senate Republican leader Eric Nesbitt. Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. Michigan GOP Chair Jim Runstead. Thank you, Jim. Good job. Nice tie.
Nice
Thank
tie.
you, Jim. Great job. One of my favorite people. I mean, we just had such success. You know, we had so many votes stolen in 2020, and then this guy came in, and they didn't steal him from his state, North Carolina, I told you. But they didn't steal him. He had 601 lawyers, and he had lawyers at every voting booth. And I said, who is that guy that did so well? Because we won the state. Other states, you know, they inched us out, and, you know, at the end, they just inched us out, crooked as hell. But this guy didn't let that happen. His name is Michael Whatley, North Carolina, and now he's the head of the Republican Party.
What's up,
RNC.
Michael Whatley?
And he's great. And I must tell you, he worked with a great woman, my daughter-in-law, Laura, who was unbelievable. He's got a very successful television show. That was a tremendous combination. That was a very important combination. Also the great, and you see him on television, he's unbelievable. Hey, Stephen, come up here fast. The great Stephen Miller. Do we like Stephen?
We love some Stephen Miller here.
Stephen. I love this guy.
He's crushing right now.
I love this guy.
Shout out to Stephen.
There is nobody smarter or tougher than Stephen Miller. Stephen, say it.
Crushing it.
Who's enjoying 100 golden days of America?
Yeah, we are, Stephen.
President Trump has achieved the most secure border in American history. He's fighting violent crime. He's fighting the drug cartels. He's cutting your taxes. He's cutting wasteful spending. He's draining the swamp. He's standing up to the radical left. He's standing up to the communists, and he's making America stronger than it's ever been. President Trump will never stop fighting for you, your children, and your family. And President Trump will make sure that in this country, not illegal aliens, not criminals, not gangbangers, but American citizens come first, last, and always. Thank you. And thank you, President Trump, for being the greatest president in American history.
See? Hey, look at that. Look at me. Oh, that's
He's
great.
great. This guy.
Yeah, that's great,
He
man.
is something special.
That's funny.
And he's been with us right from day one. Right from day one.
Way to
Stephen's
go,
been there,
Stephen.
right? He's been great. A man who put on about 928 rallies for me. We didn't have a glitch. Justin Caparel. Justin, thank you. Wherever
What's
you
up,
are.
Justin? Thank you,
He's
Justin.
probably backstage working. We did over 900 of these. Thank you,
Wow.
Justin. And Margot Martin. Does anyone know Margot?
We love Margot.
I call her the world's greatest photographer.
She
Where is
posts on
Margot?
X
Margot's
all the
great.
photos.
Where are you, Margot? And she's very shy, actually. She's both beautiful and shy. Thank you. Where? Margot, come up here, Margot. Come on.
Margot.
You got it. This is the most beautiful. Now, look, I'm not allowed to say this. It's the end of my political career, but I'm going to say it anyway. She's the most beautiful photographer in the world. I don't know if she's the best, but she's the most beautiful.
She posts on X.
Trump 2028, anybody?
Oh! She's a troll, too. She's trolling us.
People love Margot. And how about Caroline? How's Caroline doing?
We love Caroline. She's crushing it.
How is our Caroline doing?
Heck yeah, she's crushing it.
Caroline has taken the world by storm. She's taken it. And, you know, we have a man here that I don't know, but he's defending me all the time on CNN. And he defends me really well, but he can't go too far because if he goes too far, he'll get fired. I said, you're amazing. You can take it right to the edge. And he really does a good job. He's not allowed to go any further. He would be off, you know, if he really went totally crazy, which he'd like to do. But I think he's terrific. Scott Jennings.
Hey, Scott Jennings. He is great. Scott Jennings is great.
Where are you, Scott? Come here, Scott. This guy, really, I've watched him for years. I don't know him, but he likes Trump. Come here, Scott.
Bring him up.
Oh, CNN, this is the end of Scott. No, who cares? Don't worry, we'll take care of you, Scott. Scott Jennings, really great.
Thank you. Michigan. We were flying in here today, and I said, look at these farms. I got to get a farm in Michigan, because when you own as many libs as I do, you got to put a place to put them all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Scott. And I also want to thank the rest of the Michigan Republican delegation for all the work they do in Congress and who are back in Washington working on the big, beautiful bill. We're going to name it, I think, the big, beautiful bill.
Best name.
In 100 days, I've taken more than 1,000 executive actions, and I could recite our accomplishments all night long. And by the way, did you just see what I did? Straws. I wiped out the paper straw.
Thank you, sir.
These are the little things.
Disgusting. They disintegrate in your mouth.
Your sink.
And men shouldn't use straws
You ever
anyways.
try buying a new sink and no water comes out? Your shower heads, your toilets, the whole thing, it's a disaster.
Yeah, we want clean
We
hair.
now
Thank
have
you.
it so you can have as much water as you want because it's not an environmental problem. You have areas they can't get rid of their water, and yet they put restrictors on them.
Yeah, we
You
hate
used
low
to
flow.
take them off, but now you can't because they're welded in. But now you don't have to worry about that because we've opened up your faucets and we've opened up, especially me. I don't like taking a shower where the water goes drip, drip, drip
No.
onto my luxuriant hair.
No,
I
we
need
don't
a
like
lot of
that.
water. I need everything I can get. I don't need to be under a shower trying to get water to come out of that damn thing.
No, we don't need that.
So we've opened up the shower heads,
Thank you.
the faucets, the toilets, the washing machines
Good.
that don't give you water. All of that stuff has been opened up, and we're giving you gas ovens, gas stoves, if you'd like.
Good. No more
No
communist
more.
appliances.
Electric, you can have electric if you want. I have a lot of friends, they like gas better. You're supposed to sell your gas stove or get it. I don't know, who do you sell it to? Maybe another country, because we're the only country that would be so stupid to that. But the stoves now, you can have gas stoves, all you want. Put 4 of them in your kitchen. I couldn't care less. It's all common sense. People were so angry about that. Remember? They were all angry. Get rid of your gas stove. You have to go to electric. There's something they have with electric that's amazing. And by the way, Elon makes a great car, but not everybody's going to want it.
It's true.
You know, they all say, "Oh well, Trump is maybe he's under the thumb of Elon." Do you think Elon was happy about ending the all-electric mandate? I don't think he was too happy, but he's a great guy. You know, honestly, never said a thing. He says, "Let me just compete fairly." By the way, it's not fair what they've done to him too. That is a disgrace.
They abused
That
him
is
too.
a disgrace. But he's a great guy, and he's really helped us. And, you know, they've saved $150 billion on waste, fraud, and abuse, Doge. So we want to thank him. He's an incredible guy. Anybody that can land a rocket ship. I saw this thing come in. I said, you got to be kidding. This rocket's coming in. You know, most of them go right into the ocean. But he lands it. I was on the phone with somebody talking, and I saw this thing coming in. It's spinning out of control, coming down. It's all burning. It's on fire. Looks like hell. I said, well, just another rocket going into the ocean. And then all of a sudden, you see the fire pouring out of the engines, and it starts to slow up, slow. Then it's straight. Then it starts moving over a little bit. Then I say, oh no, it's hitting the gantry. It's going to hit, and the engines go, "Rah," straightens it out. And it gets hugged like you hug your beautiful little baby, right? And I said, who the hell did that? It was Elon.
Yeah. Caught it like chopsticks out here. Like Mr. Miyagi.
And he told me, you don't have a space program if you have to drop $1 billion machine into the water every time you fly. You have to save those suckers. So he does. He's an amazing guy, and he's a great American, and he loves our country, he loves you. And he's paid a big price to help, but I have a feeling it's going to end up being good for him, actually. I really do. I established the new Presidential Commission to Make America Healthy Again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's doing a good job, Dr. Oz, right? He's doing a good job. And he's a little bit different, but I want to tell you, he's a great guy. He's a great guy, and he loves his country. Just last week, Bobby announced that we're banning 8 major artificial dyes from our food supply. Sounds good to me. And on day one, I created that right now, very successful Department of Government Efficiency headed by Elon. That was a big thing doing that. I mean, the numbers are really incredible. Doge. So it was a very big thing. We terminated the left-wing money laundering scam known as USAID. How about the money that was going out? How about the money that was going out? Billions and billions. They were giving individual people billions of dollars. Can you believe it? People that had nothing, they got $1 billion. One got $2 billion. $2 billion for the environment. Had $100 in the bank. You got $2 billion. Not 2 million. You know, 2 million would have been a lot. 200,000 would have been a lot, but it would have been fine. $2 billion. And we directed all federal workers to return to the office in person, or unfortunately, they're fired. They're fired. You know, some of these guys got their golf handicap way down during the so-called time where they're supposed to be working at home. You know, they weren't working at home. Who the hell would work at home? How do you work at home? It's terrible. And we found a lot of them where they had second jobs. They were just taking us for a ride. They're all taking us for a ride.
Not
the foreign
anymore.
countries were really taking us for a ride, both on military and on trade. But we stopped it, and we're stopping it. I withdrew from the unfair and ridiculous Paris Climate Accord, where we were paying trillions of dollars. We would have spent numbers like you wouldn't believe, and China wouldn't have spent anything. Russia wouldn't have spent anything. India wouldn't have spent, but we would have spent over $1 trillion. I withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization, where
Thank you.
we were paying $470 million, and China was paying, with a population quite a bit larger than ours. Thank you. The problem with us, we have no idea what size our population. They allowed so many people on under Biden. But let's assume it's 325 million. China's 1.4 billion. We were paying $470 million. And China was paying $39 million. And China was running the whole show. So I said, no, thank you. I withdrew. They offered me to sign up at $39 million. I still said no because it was sort of scammy. I didn't like it. And Biden came back in, and he signed up. And they knew we could have signed up for $39 million or less. He came back in and he signed up for the same as what they were paying before, almost $500 million. Now, that's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to the trillions of dollars that they waste. But that's the way it is. They know they can sign up for less. They don't even care. It's like they don't want to have the conversation. And you're talking about a $450 million difference. But they came up right in the first week. He said, no, we're going right back in. Okay, I can understand that. But you go in for $39 million. They could make a deal for $39 million. They signed up for $472 million. And I withdrew from the anti-American UN Human Rights Council, which is totally disgusting.
Good. We can
In
focus
3
on
months,
America.
my administration has brought home 46 American hostages and citizens detained abroad. We paid nothing. We don't pay. We don't pay. You know, if you pay, those kidnappings go way up. We don't pay. Every time Biden brought people back, he'd pay $6 billion. $6 billion. $6 billion. 3 times they brought back 3 hostages. Oh, how is it? Well, I think it's a fair deal. What do we pay? $6 billion. Wait a minute. For 3 people, $6 billion. $6 billion.
It's a lot.
It's not right. I mean, it's just not right. They have no idea. Honestly, grossly incompetent, stupid people. More than Biden brought home in 4 years. We brought more back in just a matter of weeks than Biden brought home in years. And he paid a fortune and we paid nothing. We got Mexico to turn over 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. And we're charging Mexico and Canada and China big tariffs because of the fact that they've allowed fentanyl to come in and poison our country. They're paying a lot of money for that. And because of that, you'll watch, it's going to stop. It's already slowing down. Within 6 weeks, we also apprehended the terrorists responsible for the attack that killed 13 American service members, known as Abbey-gate. I got to know them. I got to know those families very well. They're devastated during the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan and brought him home. I mean, we brought this guy home to America. We got the guy that did it. We got him. They were looking for years, but we got him. It took us to get him. We got him in the first month. Brought him home to face justice. And it was that gross incompetence that probably led Putin to go in and attack Ukraine, because they were never going to. That was never going to happen. If I were president, the Ukraine-Russia war would have never, ever happened, not even a little chance. We have ended the weaponization of law enforcement and fired Joe Biden's handpicked. These are pro-crime U.S. attorneys, except if it's a political person like me. You know, I was under investigation more than the late, great Alphonse Capone. Al Capone
covered it,
was the greatest gangster of them all. If he had dinner with you and if he didn't like you, you were dead. You were a dead person. You'd be under a foundation somewhere in a nice big building or sports center going on.
Not good, no.
And I spent far more time under investigation than Alphonse Capone. How about that? You like that? I didn't like that. I didn't like it. We removed senior FBI officials who were corrupt and misdirected the resources they sent to SWAT teams after grandmothers and J6 hostages, what they did to those J6 hostages. And they did nothing to the people that took over Portland and took over Seattle. They literally took over a big portion of Seattle, or in Minnesota, Minneapolis. You remember that disaster where they said, no, this is a peaceful rally. The CNN lunatic anchor, the guy has about the personality of an ant. This is not a man meant for television. He said,
which one is that?
He said, no, the rally is quite peaceful. Then he got hit with a brick or something. And over his shoulder, the entire skyline of Minneapolis was burning. Peaceful. You remember that one?
Yeah.
The entire skyline was burning. And I have to be careful because that gentleman right there, one of the greatest purchasers of advertising in the history of the world, Mike Lindell, there has never been a better purchaser. He comes from Minnesota. No, congratulations. He's the greatest purchaser of ads in history. If he would have bought my ads, I could have had 10 times more ads on. There's never been. Is there any station that doesn't have a pillow ad in? But he's great, and he's doing great, and he's got a beautiful new wife and all that stuff. And I'm proud. Look at him holding hands. They're still holding hands. I'm very proud of it. That's nice. Usually by this time, and a lot of people I know, Mike, by this time it's over. It's over. Look at you holding hands. I love that. I saw that. I pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been grossly mistreated.
Thank you for doing that.
We created a brand new DOJ task force on anti-Christian bias. It's a big problem. I stripped the security clearances of the disgraced intelligence agents who lied about Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. Remember the laptop from hell?
Oh, yeah. And the 51
Remember
liars.
the laptop from hell?
Yeah.
When you had the 51 agents, they said, oh, Russia did it.
No.
Russia did it. Russia did everything. Russia did it. And it was all like horrible, disgusting stuff. You hadn't seen the worst of it, but it truly is the laptop. By the way,
We've seen
a
it.
very
Marco
brilliant
Polo.
reporter for the New York Post wrote a book called The Laptop from Hell. You ought to read that book. It
And
is
get Marco
really-
Polo's report
It
too.
tells you the facts, okay? It tells you the facts.
Back
Miss
there on the
Devine,
shelf.
the great Miss Devine. She wrote an amazing book, actually, The
Miranda.
Laptop from Hell, where you
Miranda
also
Devine. We love
terminated the
Miranda.
clearances of the Biden crime family and Joe Biden himself because he's corrupt. And I banned all government censorship and restored free speech in America. We have free speech.
Thank you, Mr.
We didn't
President.
have free speech. I ended all of the lawless so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion bullshit
Yeah.
all across the entire federal government and the private
Stop
sector.
that BS.
And I made it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Not that complicated. No more 35
And
pronouns
the really
on the
easy
forms.
one, this was the easiest one I had. I banned men from competing in women's sports.
Thank you, sir.
You know, they always say that's an 80-20 issue. No, it's about a 97-3 issue.
Yeah, that's right.
I
It's
also
that high.
proudly banned the use of puberty blockers and other chemical and surgical, right? All these mutilations of our minor youth, I banned it all. I signed executive orders to abolish critical race theory and transgender insanity from our schools and from our military. We fired the woke boards of visitors at our military academies. We have great people running our military academies now. And I've directed the reinstatement of patriots expelled from our military by the Biden vaccine mandate with full back pay. After years of missed targets, our military suddenly has the best recruiting numbers in 30 years. Every branch is setting records. Don't think of that. 6 months ago, you and I were reading that nobody wanted to join the military, right? Now we've just set a record of recruitment that's stuck. We have a waiting list of people that want to go into our military, and we have a waiting list, including for police and firefighters, because our country has spirit again.
Let's
we have
go.
spirit.
Because it's not
Our country
wokeified
has
with
great
garbage.
spirit again. Last month, I signed a historic executive order to begin the process of eliminating the Federal Department of Education
Yep, good.
and send education back to Michigan. We're going to send it back to our states, right? We're going to send it back to our states to run. I mean, how the hell bad can we do? We're like in last place. They do badly, you're going to do better. They're going to do great, though. I think they're going to do great. I'm very proud of it. Linda McMahon, by the way, is doing a phenomenal job.
Definitely.
And I signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America.
Thank you, sir. Because this is
I ordered the
America.
release of all remaining files related to the assassinations of Presidents John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. And they're all out there.
Are they? What
And
about
I made myself very
about Epstein?
unpopular in Mexico
Epstein?
by renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Well, that is a good name. That's the name. It's our body of water. We hug it.
And we are restoring the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley in Alaska. He's a very good president. And you Italians are going to love me because just yesterday I brought back Columbus Day in America, especially for Italian Americans who were so badly treated by its removal. I also signed an order to require proof of citizenship to vote in American elections.
Yeah, and the Democrats are suing like lunatics over that.
And the Democrats fought me in that. Think of it.
Yeah.
Why would they want no voter ID? Because they want to cheat.
Yeah, that's why.
Why would they want to have no proof of citizenship? We don't want it. We trust everybody.
Because
No, they want to cheat. That's all they want to do. Think of that. No voter ID. In Michigan, you must never allow ranked choice voting to be here. Never. We've done this all in 14 weeks. That's one. Remember that. 100 days. We've done all of the things that I named and a lot more. and we're counting, and it's going to be better. Wait till you see the results of some of the things that we're doing. In the coming weeks and months, we will pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and that will include no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. It's called the One Big Beautiful Bill, and it will be the biggest bill ever passed in our country's history. It will include the biggest tax cuts, regulation cuts, military supremacy, and just about everything else. We will cut more than $1 trillion in wasteful and unnecessary spending. And in the next fiscal year, it'll all be done. We're going to have something that you won't even believe. We will end inflation, slash prices. We've already ended inflation, raise wages, and give you the greatest economy in the history of the world. That's already happening. With our tax bill, the average family's take-home pay will be at least $5,000 more than it was just a couple of months ago. We will always protect Medicare and Social Security for our great seniors with no cuts, and we will defend Medicaid for those great people that are in need. House Republicans are working to invest more money in Medicaid than we spend today. The only thing we're going to cut is the corruption and the crooks that take advantage of some of the illegal schemes. So we want to preserve Medicaid for the most vulnerable, for our kids, pregnant women, the poor, and disabled Americans. We will fully and permanently secure our border. We will make the largest ever investment in U.S. military and build the Golden Dome missile defense shield. That's going to all protect us so we live a long and beautiful life. It's going to be made in Michigan, and it's going to be made right here in the USA. And 1 hour ago, I just made a speech at Selfridge Air Force Air National Guard Base, announcing that we are saving it, keeping it open, including thousands of jobs with the brand new state-of-the-art F-15s, which are coming to Selfridge. And we will crush violent crime and give our police the support, protection, resources, and respect they so dearly deserve. I will defend religious liberty, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms. We will celebrate the 250th anniversary of America's founding in 2026, and we will teach our children to love our country, honor our history, and always respect our great American flag. And one day soon, American astronauts will plant the flag on the planet Mars. That's going to happen very soon.
Let's do that,
Every single
baby.
day of my administration will continue to live by the motto, promises made, and you've seen it before, promises kept. From Mark to Midland, from Mackinac to Saginaw, and from Lansing to right here in Macomb County, we stand on the shoulders of red-blooded Michigan patriots. What great people. I love you, Michigan. Who laid the railroads, worked the factories, tilled the field, forged the steel, fought the battles, and won the victories that built the Motor City and made this state into the pride of the America Midwest. And you know what? We're going to make it better than it ever was. It's already happening. You see what's happening. Michigan is the state that gave us the assembly line, Motown, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, and put the world behind the wheel of an automobile. And under our leadership, we are making it greater every single day. And the automobile business in Michigan will soon, and it's going to happen really soon. It's already happening. They're signing left and right because of my taxation and tariff policies, which are policies of common sense and genius, be bigger and stronger and better than ever before. It's going to get better than ever before, and it won't even be close. Companies will be pouring back into Michigan. It was hardworking patriots like you who built this country. And on November 5th, 2024, it was hardworking patriots like you who saved our country. So thanks to your help, your love, and your support, after 100 days back in the White House, America is a free, proud, and sovereign nation once more, and our magnificent destiny is closer than ever before. It's closer than ever before. You have no idea how close it is. Our golden age has only just begun. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in. We will never give up. We will never back down. We will never, ever surrender. We will fight, 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 and we will win, win, win. Together, we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again.
Yes.
And we will make America great again. I love you, Michigan. I love you. Have a good time. Thank you. God bless you all.
We love you,
God
Mr.
bless
President. All right. So we got a little YMCA coming out. Woo, man. So he was on a tear tonight. My goodness. So that was like 90 minutes of Trump out there in rally mode, and he was just burning up, man, energy. Look at this dancing, dude. He's having a good time. Not even worried at all. So what I think stood out about that the most was the energy. A lot of the policy conversation was stuff we've heard from before. Nothing real new. A lot of the same stuff. But I think the thing that really stood out was that immigration video that we saw, that burner, that FAFO video set to, gym music, made me want to run up a mountain or something. And it was, I think, a message right back to the many lefties and the ACLU gangbangers and all the screeching judges that we've covered here at length. In fact, we're not done yet. We're going to cover some legal stuff coming up, but they have been screeching from the rooftops about how abusive Trump is, what a monster he is, how this is like a dictatorship. He's deporting people without due process. The conditions are horrendous. Somebody has to do something, right? It's been constant. We've been seeing that in every single filing. Trump comes out and drops a banger of a video and just says, yeah, this is what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do it, and we're going to increase the deportations, and hopefully the Supreme Court comes back down and settles this once and for all. But in the meantime, we're doing what we were elected to do, and we are going to deport these people out of the country. So 100 days, congratulations to the administration. All in all, I think it's been a very successful 100 days. I've heard a lot of other people out there give kind of low scores and low ratings, and I understand, don't get me wrong, that there are some disappointments on certain things. Like we saw the Epstein stuff get a little bit botched. We've seen some of the litigation here in particular. I think we've covered the Kilmar case where, in my opinion, the DOJ has made mistakes and dropped the ball on certain things. And there are a lot of things that I think are still open that we'd like to see, more progress on. But by and large, there's a bunch of stuff that's open and pending. And so I think it's hard to hold that against him at the moment, right? You can't really judge somebody for stuff that is kind of in the middle of being worked on. And as long as you're seeing progress on those items, I think that is a good success. And so the president in many different arenas has been doing a good job. I think that what we have seen in terms of where we could do some better performance would be from the DOJ. We'd like a little bit more, I think, precision on certain things, but it's still new. It's been the 100 days just getting closed out of here. And for all of the screeching we hear about how Trump is causing all of this disaster and how things are crumbling at the seams, for them to then turn around and make the argument that he's ineffective, I think they're kind of logically inconsistent, kind of contradictory amongst themselves. So if Trump is really, wrecking the entire global financial order, and all we're seeing is some slight perturbations in supply chains and in the stock markets, then that's not a big deal. That's not a bad problem, right? But every single headline is crying like Chicken Little, like the sky is falling. So I thought it was a good speech, and I think they have accomplished a ton in 100 days that is well worth looking at, the glass in a half full type of manner with some optimism. And if you compare that to Joe Biden's presidency, everything we have now is like night and day. I mean, the entire country, I think, is shifted in terms of its energy. People are talking about things that actually matter now, not just useless, stupid platitudes with a demented president at the helm. And you can even, let's set aside all of the policy considerations. Like you could judge Trump on immigration. You could judge him on document releases. You could judge him on wars being settled and the promises he made and all those things. But I think when you also analyze other types of indicia of performance, right? It's like if you get a job review, or remember when you used to get graded in, I think, elementary school, where they would say like your penmanship or your communication, stuff like that, right? Trump's communication in terms of presidential communication has been night and day compared to the Joe Biden administration. Just the amount of activity, the amount of energy, the amount of interfacing with the rest of the world. All of those things are A pluses across the board. And in terms of generating, I think, energy for the party, and when you compare Trump's performance relative to the Democrats and their poll numbers and their enthusiasm, those are all in the toilet. So it is, I think, nothing but winning ultimately. Some setbacks with some judges, some kind of, goofy things that have happened, like with the Epstein files and stuff, but we are just getting started. It's like the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. And so far, it feels like a tremendous success. So I am excited to see what everybody can do once they get their sea legs under them a little bit more. 6 months, I think, has been a nice kind of marker where we can look back and say, all right, well, what was the first 6 months? Did they prepare any indictments? Have they released more documents? And have we gotten some more substantive stuff out of this? Because remember, they're still purging out all the poison pills that are in the administration. And we saw what one poison pill called Erez Ruvani did when he was in that case, the Kilmar case, in Judge Zinnis's courtroom. The whole thing got poisoned after that person was there, and they fired him. And so we're starting to, I think, see some of the plugs or the holes get plugged, and it can only get better from here. So I think a very successful first 100 days. Now, we're not done. As I mentioned, we got some other updates that we'll hit through. We'll talk two things today. Let's talk about Kristi Noem, and we actually have a filing and a read that we can talk through, because this one came out, I believe, today, fresh out of the oven. Let me double check that. I think it was today. Yesterday, but this was a reply. Okay, so it's a motion to dismiss here from Kristi Noem, and here is what she sent back. Kristi Noem, Department of Homeland Security, strikes back. You can see they have now filed a motion to dismiss the entire lawsuit that has been brought against the Department of Homeland Security by this organization called CASA. And CASA has been in a lot of the litigation that we've covered here previously. In fact, CASA is the organization of which Kilmar, the deported wife-beating, gang-banging abuser, that he was a part of, right? And so he was a member of this organization along with some other unions. And so they sued Kristi Noem. And basically what they have done in this lawsuit is they've said that, Kristi, you cannot undo the TPS, the temporary protected status, that was passed by Joe Biden and gifted to the Venezuelans, made them all this class of people who were not really subject to the immigration laws because they were protected. Well, Kristi Noem came in and she reversed that. She said, actually, no, if Joe Biden can implement that, then I can undo that. And of course, CASA sued, said you can't eliminate temporary protected status of these people. You can't get rid of them. She's saying, yes, I can. And by the way, we're dismissing this. This is a motion to dismiss in the Southern District of Maryland. And so Kristi Noem dropped this one out. And here's what it says: getting submitted to the court, hopefully to get rid of this case. They say, all right, listen. All right, Your Honor. Homeland Security Secretary called Kristi Noem vacated Joe Biden's extension of TPS status for the Venezuelans. That was in 2023. It's now gone. She terminated that designation. Now, as we know, TPS, temporary protected status, is a humanitarian program that affords temporary relief from removal to certain aliens who are in the United States when their country, when their nationality experiences armed conflict, a natural disaster, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions, who are thus temporarily unable to return home, right? Can't go back because it's dangerous. Now, the TPS statute gives the Secretary of Homeland, in this case, Kristi Noem, broad discretion over the designations, who fits into this category that can come into our country and who doesn't. In Secretary Noem's assessment, her predecessor, Joe Biden in Mayorkas, in this case, the previous terrible Department of Homeland Security director, failed to evaluate the key statutory question, whether Venezuelan nationals and whether permitting them to remain in the United States is contrary to national interest, right? You don't, in other words, if there's a disaster over there, you don't have to bring them into your country. They can figure it out on their own. Now, if it's opposite to the national interest, that's another reason to not bring them in. So these people sued. Plaintiffs are two national nonprofit organizations, Casa de Maryland, which is the same organization that was fighting for Kilmar. They're suing under the APA. They say, Kristi Noem can't do this. What does she think she is? The Secretary of Homeland Security? They said it was arbitrary and capricious, in excess of her statutory authority, and she can't undesignate the Venezuelans. They say that her determinations are discriminatory. In fact, she's probably a racist towards the Venezuelans. They violate the 14th Amendment and equal protection clauses and the 5th Amendment due process clauses and more, saying Secretary Noem and Homeland are now, right, this is from the government, from DOJ, asking to dismiss the case, saying, all right, this court should dismiss this as a threshold matter because of 3 reasons, all independent. Then you should dismiss it for each one of these independently. First of all, Congress has explicitly barred judicial review of TPS determinations. Okay, if Kristi says that this is the designation, this is the designation. They tell us in U.S. Code, quote, there is no judicial review of any determination of the secretary with respect to the designation or the termination or the extension. The judges cannot substitute their opinion for the secretary's opinion because we elected the secretary to exercise her opinion, or the president and the secretary to impose their opinion, not the judges. If the judges get to substitute theirs in, what the hell do we have elections for? Second, the APA says there is no judicial review where agency action is committed to agency discretion, right? If she has the discretion, the APA says you can't even sue under this. So when Kristi Noem vacated and terminated the TPS, you cannot undo that. You can't even look at it. And third, another provision, bars any court other than the Supreme Court from granting the relief that the CASA illegals are demanding. A sweeping order that enjoins or restrains the secretary under her authority cannot be allowed. And so therefore, the courts should dismiss this complaint as a matter of jurisdiction. But even if the court had jurisdiction, they failed to state a claim. Noem's determinations were not arbitrary and capricious. In fact, they were based on her predecessor's extension that contained flaws that warranted reconsideration, because now we see that the Venezuelan nationals are contrary to the United States interest, and saying that their equal protection and substantive due process claims are also unavailing because they failed to allege that Noem was motivated by any discriminatory animus at all. They're calling her a racist now. Noem's determinations are facially legitimate and are not motivated by racially discriminatory intent, obviously. Now, that is true under the correct standard, and you should be deferring to the executive branch. And so, therefore, you should dismiss this action with prejudice and do it now. Writing, under the Immigration Act of 1990, we established a program for providing temporary shelter on a discretionary basis. If there were extraordinary and temporary conditions, we could do it. It would be for things like environmental disasters and more. In fact, the statute says that Kristi Noem, after consultation with the appropriate agencies, can designate them TPS if they find for certain things: ongoing armed conflict, earthquake, floods, and other things. Now, when the secretary designates a country for TPS, eligible aliens who are granted TPS may not be removed from the United States. That's why Joe Biden brought them all in here under this. And they're authorized to work as long as they get TPS. So he just said, oh, the whole country, Venezuela. It's a disaster down there, so you're all welcome. Initial designations may not exceed 18 months. Now, the Secretary of Homeland, in this case, it was Mayorkas who invaded us. The Secretary must consult with appropriate agencies and review each designation before it ends to determine whether the conditions still exist. If Homeland finds that the foreign state no longer meets the designations, you should terminate that, and TPS shouldn't continue. If the Secretary does not determine the conditions, then you can extend it for 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months as whatever. Finally, the statute says that Homeland Secretary and their decisions are unreviewable. Quote, Unreviewable, quote, there is no judicial review of any determination of Kristi Noem with respect to the designation, termination, or the extension or any other foreign state under the subsection. Okay, you cannot substitute a judge's thoughts for the secretary's thoughts. So what happened is on March 9, 2021, the traitorous Alejandro Mayorkas, Joe Biden's Homeland Security secretary, designated Venezuela for TPS. He says it's dangerous down there. Then they kept extended it twice. On October 3rd, 2023, they extended it through September 2025, right? Just to shackle Trump. Designated Venezuela effective all the way to April 2nd and wanted to go further. Now, this notice provided initial applicants that registered under this to re-register. If you're a Venezuelan who is here, not really illegally, because Joe Biden and Mayorkas gave them a justification here. Oh, no, your country is a disaster, so come to our country. But our interpretation of this is that Joe Biden is perverting the law, right? That's not what the law is for, to just have our country invaded by foreigners. It's for earthquakes and natural disasters and other things. So they're not complying with the spirit of the law because they were trying to destroy America. Saying here on January 10th, former Secretary Mayorkas issued a notice extending that for another 18 months to allow even more Venezuelans to come into our country unlawfully. Technically lawfully, but you get the point. On January 28th, Secretary Noem vacated that, said, no, sorry. We're going to restore the status quo that came and was in existence before we got invaded. She explained that the 2025 extension did not acknowledge the novelty of its approach or explain how it's consistent with the law. In fact, the Secretary, Noem, determined that the lack of clarity from Mayorkas warranted a vacatur to untangle the confusion and to provide an opportunity for more informed guidance in what's happening, right? So the disgusting Joe Biden administration on their way out poisoned the well, raised the grounds, and tried to destroy the country so that Trump couldn't fix it. Now, after reviewing the country conditions in Venezuela and consulting with actual U.S. government authorities, on February 1, Noem came in and determined Venezuela no longer meets the conditions for Mayorkas' little designation. Now, contrary to the national interest to permit the covered Venezuelans here, we're not going to allow it to happen anymore. It doesn't serve our interest, right? It might serve theirs. We don't underestimate that, of course, but not ours. Accordingly, Noem then terminated the designation effective April 7, 2025. Gone. In making this determination, Kristi Noem highlighted the notable improvements in several areas like the economy and public health and crime that allow for Venezuelan nationals to be safely returned to their home country. And just to be clear about this, America has been the pressure relief valve for all of these other nations. There's just a problem. They just come to America. Well, if you stayed in your own country, then maybe you'd have an incentive to fix your own country's problems, right? And the people would be unsettled and the politicians would have to listen to them. But now the politicians just deport them to America and say, well, it's a good thing those guys are gone. Don't have a very ornery population that we have to govern. So we can just continue to rape the treasury, ransack the treasury, and no one will notice. But we got to deal with the problems. Well, no, it's good enough, okay? Economy, health, crime. If we have to take people because their economies are bad, because their health is bad, because their crime is bad, we got to take the whole world. It's for a hurricane. We'll hold on to you for 6 months while you rebuild so you don't die. That's it. The secretary determined that even assuming extraordinary and temporary conditions remained, termination of this is necessary. It is contrary to the national interest to permit Venezuelan nationals, not Americans, to remain temporarily in the United States. It was always supposed to be temporary, not supposed to be extended indefinitely. The national interest is an expansive standard that may encompass an array of broad consideration, and it calls into consideration for the secretary's judgment these issues. Noem explained that the significant population of temporary protected status holders has resulted in associated difficulties in local communities where local resources have been inadequate to meet the demands of all of these imported people, and further underscores that the United States across our country, shelters, stations, aid services are all at maximum capacity. We're full. In considering the national interest, she found that this population includes members of Tren de Aragua, a transnational gang. She also observed U.S. foreign policy interests, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, are best served by curtailing policies that facilitate or encourage illegal and destabilizing migration. And so you have no jurisdiction over this, court. You've seen it. The law says unreviewable. They've got no basis to bring this claim. So you should dismiss it for failing to state a claim under the rules. Saying the TPS statute says that they can't even sue on this. They can't say you can't designate Venezuela or undesignate Venezuela. They say the statute plainly precludes judicial review. You're not even allowed to look at it. A decision to terminate this designation is at the core of the statute's power. She made the determination following the rules of the statute. She vacated it and falls within the rules. In fact, look in Webster's dictionary, okay? It'll explain it to you, Judge. The application of the bar on judicial review is not complicated, okay? Don't even have to get complicated. Look at the dictionary if you want, but you can't. They challenge her determination. They can't. The law says that. Both determinations were made under the law. So this court lacks jurisdiction to even review these, and this case should end now. Now, they try to overcome this bar by saying, well, there's other things that she used to make that decision, and those other factors are racist, but they can't substitute their judgment or use the indicia that got her to the judgment to undermine her judgment. It's the same thing. And in addition to this, the APA also says you can't sue under this. When the law says an agency is acting within lawful discretion, they're allowed to do that. You can't sue them when they're allowed to do that. Now, this rare section of the APA is used in certain cases, but there is no manageable standard where you could apply that to this. You don't have jurisdiction to do that, and so you got to go. Now, by seeking to have these determinations from Kristi Noem set aside, the judge is trying to become coercive now. District courts can't do that. You can't override the Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, regardless of how this relief is being framed, it's all barred under the rules. It does not matter whether they're requesting an order, setting it aside, whether they're requesting an injunction, whatever. However they're framing this and however cute they want to be, all it is at the bottom is coercion and restraining the agency's power, and you can't do that. None of this says it only applies to certain types of litigation. The common denominator in those terms are the same. You're not allowed to interfere. Now, the passage of the APA created no new remedy beyond the equitable relief that existed at the time, so you can't read more power into it. And their claim should be dismissed because she was allowed to do this. It says so specifically. 1254A says that she can do all of these things. Congress gave Kristi Noem undoubtedly broad authority to make TPS determinations and to ensure the continued designation of a country complies with the law. Saying the secretary reviews conditions with foreign states periodically. The statute also requires her to do this. Noem took the steps provided for by the statute. They just don't agree with her decision. So they may not like it that Venezuela's not going to be on the list anymore, but that's their problem. Flexibility to reconsider decisions makes good sense in the TPS context. She is required to make sensitive adjustments to foreign policy depending on what changes around the world. Now, their view that a reconsideration is barred would mean that no secretary could ever alter a designation, right? So now the argument is, well, she can't undo what Mayorkas did. And they say nothing says that she can't do that. Noem acted promptly to reconsider his last-minute extension and did so months before the extension's effective date, right? It wasn't even in effect yet, so she undid it before it went into effect. If agencies hold any inherent power to reconsider past action, as the law says they do, this was, as Secretary Mayorkas previously recognized, a quintessential exercise of power, and so the vacature of this extension was lawful, and so they can't sue under this. Now, they also say that we can't terminate this, and we said, well, Venezuela no longer meets the conditions for TPS status. Noem conducted a review of this status and made her determination. She said a bunch has gotten better down there, economy, public health, whatever, and we don't need them here in this country. Our national interest says we don't need them here. It's not good. It's causing a burden on our system. So then they argue, well, it was unlawful to terminate this because it was already granted, but it wasn't. We already terminated it. It became effective after the expiration of the previous non-vacated extension. And so they can't show it's unlawful, and it didn't violate the APA either. It hasn't deviated from past practice. These were consistent decisions that were consistent with prior decisions made by other secretaries. And finally, for the reasons discussed below, they cannot adequately allege that the secretary's determinations were pretextual or otherwise based on discriminatory motives, right? She's not a racist. No one's shown she's a racist in evidence. Now, even if this court thinks that it has jurisdiction, you have to dismiss it because there's no violation of any constitutional rules either. Saying they claim that her decision to terminate Venezuela based on discriminatory intent are totally baseless. The decision is based on a national interest finding, and courts cannot look behind facially legitimate actions to hunt for illicit purposes, right? Kristi Noem is the duly nominated Senate-confirmed secretary. You don't just get to substitute, well, she might be racist, so we're going to stop and pause everything and undo everything. No, it is a legitimate decision that she made. Decisions by the political branches are generally upheld against constitutional challenges so long as they satisfy the rational basis review. And the standard here passed muster from what Kristi Noem did. Her actions readily passed the tests. Noem consulted with the appropriate governmental agencies, including the Department of State, to determine that extending TPS status for Venezuela was contrary to the national interest. There's gang activity, public safety concerns, adverse impact on communities, foreign policy interests, immigration, border policies, and more. Now, that determination was thus facially legitimate, and because of those determinations, and they're plausible, there's no violation of the Equal Protections Clause or anything else. And you shouldn't apply a stricter standard here just because they happen to be Venezuelans, right? That's what this is racism. So then you have to apply a stricter scrutiny because now you're dealing with a suspect class, which would be someone's ethnicity or a national origin. But even under the standard set forth in the other cases, their claims would still fail. They must show that there was a discriminatory purpose in this decision and that it was motivated by animus. But none of that would happen here. None of these statements reflect any animus based on race or national origin at all. They say that she called to Venezuelans dirtbags, Kristi Noem. That's not true. She called them Tren de Aragua gangbangers dirtbags, not Venezuelans writ large. Hello. And plaintiffs, their reliance on Trump statements emphasizes the paucity of the evidence of the discriminatory purpose, right? So there's, well, they got to go out to Trump now, who's making political statements during a campaign. So what? The Ninth Circuit rejected a cat's paw theory in the executive agency context. And further, some of these quotes date back years, long before Venezuela was even designated TPS in the first place. So all that should be rejected. Now, none of the evidence outlined in their complaint against us is sufficient to prove that the determinations were motivated by racial animus at all. Nothing says that Kristi Noem's a racist, in contravention of the Fifth Amendment. And Trump and Noem seek to reduce illegal immigration and have crime policy goals that are reflected in their public statements that the Americans elected Trump to prioritize. Allowing them to continue to sue would leave virtually any immigration policy adopted susceptible to an equal protection challenge, right? Because everybody could say, if there's anything that feels like this group, well, what the Venezuelans, but the Guatemalans and the El Salvadorians, we're being discriminated against. Everybody can sue. Well, that is untenable. Even if Arlington Heights, if other tests are applied, plaintiffs fail to state a claim. And so for the foregoing reasons, this complaint should be dismissed in its entirety. They're not stating a claim. And that is filed by the Department of Justice, submitted in Maryland in the case of CASA, the same NGO that was representing Kilmar, now trying to stop all TPS Venezuelan designated individuals from being sent out. Kristi Noem, of course, fighting back on that one. And we're excited to see what the judge does on that. Now, we also saw elsewhere, this one is sick. Homeland GOP posted this on X, says, it's worse than all of the invasions that have occurred are horrible, no doubt. But it's the type of invasion that happened in our country that makes things even more sick. Here's what Homeland GOP posted. It's worse than that. The administration even implemented a policy that gave the adult claiming to be the child's parent the right to deny a request to conduct a DNA test. Okay. They gave the smugglers the authority to veto the smuggling of the kid, just to be clear. So they posted this saying in 2019, the Trump administration implemented a policy of DNA testing of family units that were apprehended at the southwest border. The policy was implemented to determine whether groups presenting themselves to ZPP as family units were actually related. Oh, it's me and my son. We're coming here for a better life. Or were they just grouped together by the cartels to ensure their swift release? At the time, as many as 30% of adults arriving with minors were not related at all, just stealing kids and trafficking them into our country, not biologically or legally related. 30% of adults arriving with minors, it was a lot. However, according to a leaked CPB memo dated May 19, 2023, during Joe Biden's term, Border Patrol would end the practice on May 31 after its current testing contract expired. They didn't want to run the DNA anymore. Following a June 2023 inquiry by committee staff, Border Patrol officials stated that testing was being conducted only on an ad hoc basis until a vendor is selected. Oh, we can't test it. Nobody's going to process the tests. In September 23, committee staff were further informed that no new vendor had been selected. So guess what? In June 24, Border Patrol announced that testing would only be conducted with the consent of the adult. Is that your kid? Yeah. Can I test? No. Okay. Have a nice time in America. Meaning that even if agents or officers suspect a child is being smuggled, you're like, that is not your kid, clearly. Oh, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. It's the different color. I don't know what's going on. It's not you. Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas have given the final say on testing to the smugglers, not to Border Patrol. So the child traffickers, we're going to test your kid. No, that's okay. I refuse. Okay, we'll have a good time. Continue your abuse. That was what they did. It was sick. And we already know there are 300,000 missing kids gone, trafficked by the Democrats. And they'll turn around and have the gall and the audacity to lecture us about being inhumane or something, not having due process for people. What about the due process for the kids who are trafficked across the border and abused for the rest of their lives? You guys forgotten about that? Yeah, they have. They don't care. Or maybe they're in on it. Now, here's Tom Homan talking about this yesterday with Caroline Levitt. Here's what he explained.
I've been at this for over 40 years. I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president I ever worked for took border security seriously, because you can't have national security if you don't have strong border security. We got to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where's coming in, why it's coming in, right? Even President Obama and President Clinton took some steps to secure the border because they understood national security was important. Joe Biden was the first president in the history of this nation who came into office and unsecured a border on purpose.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. We handed the Biden administration, after President Trump's first administration, we handed the Biden administration the most secure border in my lifetime, and he unsecured it on purpose. Now, President Trump and this administration here, their success is unprecedented. We beat Trump's first administration on border success. Border numbers are historic low. Today, as I'm standing here, we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. And the numbers prove it. President Trump's policies are saving lives every day.
And we're happy about that. Now, of course, the Democratic Party, the ACLU gangbanger lawyers, and Senator Van Hollen don't want that progress to happen. They'd rather just sit there and screech at us about so-called due process. They have no idea what that word even means. Illegals are given a ton of due process, just not enough. They want them to get due process plus. They want them to get more due process than they would give to you in any situation of equivalency if you are a MAGA Republican. But since they are illegal invaders who happen to be in alignment with the Democratic plan for the country, they want them to have everything: criminal charges, jury trials, ACLU lawyers, red carpets, and those little moist towelettes for their faces on their airplane rides. Here was another conversation between someone in the media and Chuck Schumer doesn't want to believe the truth that Trump has secured the border. The Democrats failed to do it when they were in charge, and now they're paying the price for it politically.
On border security, the White House and Republicans are touting the claim that illegal crossings are down by 95%, godways, as they call them, are down by 99%, and only 9 foreign nationals were released into the country compared to many more under the Biden administration during the equal period. Is that not a sign that the Republicans...
I'd say one thing to you. I don't trust Trump's numbers.
Next question. All right. So, well, the numbers are good. You may not think it's 3 who came across. Maybe it's more than that. But it's not thousands a day. We don't have a bunch of Haitians living under a bridge in Texas somewhere and people dropping dead, floating down the river after they try to cross. So nice to see that there. We also saw Senator Kennedy was out talking about Trump's 100 days and how we have made some major victories here.
He's secured the border. He's been very aggressive in abolishing racial quotas. He's deregulating the economy, getting rid of rules and regulations. He's changed the national conversation about the federal budget. He and Mr. Musk, under President Biden, the conversation or the question was, who needs to pay more in taxes? Now, thanks to Trump and Musk, I think the question in Washington and elsewhere is what the hell happened to the money?
What did happen to the money? That question is on repeat here in this new administration. A lot of questions about where it went over the last 4. Now, the deportation battle continues. Kristi Noem responding to try to protect her executive power and the power of the executive branch to make the decisions that are enabled to them by the Constitution. So it was filed. Her motion to dismiss. We'll wait to see what the judge says in response. Thank you for subscribing and joining as our coverage here continues. All right, we're not done yet. We got one final update on the day, and this was a pretty fun one. In the Supreme Court, Justice Gorsuch not happy with an attorney in there providing oral arguments. You see, Fox News tells us that he scolds a Supreme Court litigator. I've got the audio queued up here, and he is not happy with her. She said the other side was lying, accused them of being dishonest, and Judge Gorsuch said, you don't do that because there's a plausible explanation for their opinion. So you don't just get to call them liars. Be nice to the other side. It was a fiery exchange. Here's a little bit of background before we jump into the audio clip, just so we can understand the background on the case. But Justice Gorsuch scolded an experienced lawyer during oral arguments, a rare and heated exchange that took place in SCOTUS. Tense exchange took place during oral arguments. The case is called AJT versus Osseo Area Schools, centered on this question: can school districts be held liable for discriminating against students with disabilities under the ADA in certain situations, right? If they don't provide this student with certain benefits, can they be sued and held liable? Chief Justice Gorsuch, the attorney in there, is called Lisa Blott. She works with Williams and Conley, and I think they were subject to one of Trump's EOs or deals, and she was in there accusing the other side of lying in their assertions. Now, she is representing the plaintiffs. They're a set of parents of a girl. She's got severe epilepsy, young child. Prayers for her, who sued the public school. The public school refused to provide at-home school during the morning session. Like, we're not sending someone to your home. An accommodation that she would receive in other districts. So right now she's, well, if I went over there, they give me they'd give me that. Like, well, we're not over there, so we're not going to give it to you. So she sues, saying, I'm being discriminated against. This is a violation of the law. Equal protection would say I would get the same benefits as any other student who attends public schools elsewhere. So why are you not giving me morning school, right? So we got into it. The exchange between Gorsuch and Blott took place after she accused the other side about lying about the public school stance. Gorsuch laced into her a bit. There's, of course, Gorsuch during his confirmation hearings. We'll listen to it and check out the transcripts, and it was spicy. Now, you don't hear a lot of this in the Supreme Court, okay? So, like, anytime a Supreme Court justice raises their voice,
between
it's like, whoa, stuff goes nuts. So as you can see, we're scrolling to it. It's about an hour and 4 minutes in. And what we got is Ketanji, who is asking questions before Amy Coney Barrett chimes in. And so let's start it right about here. And I also have the transcript queued up to about where it starts. So let's listen to this exchange.
Provisions, Justice Jackson, but they don't make hot dog stands liable for damages. And a made-up judicial damage remedy comes from thin air.
Ms. Blatt, the answer to this is probably clear since you called the two-tier test stupid. But I just want to clarify. You agree there's no two-tier test?
Correct.
Okay, so there is what Justice Gorsuch has sometimes called radical agreement on that point. Okay.
There's radical agreement. What there's radical disagreement on is the question presented. And if you just say, and I know it's sometimes easier for you to say, we don't have to do a lot, but you're caused real harm to the parties who don't have Supreme Court counsel and lower courts who get confused when you just remand and say, we just remand. So if you could at least set the slate free, well, it is part of your job, Justice Kavanaugh, to set the law sometimes. And I understand it's easier.
Okay, so did you hear that? So something happened there. Well, it is part of your job, Justice Kavanaugh, to set the law sometimes. Kind of, I don't know if there was like a smirk or something going on, because she kind of like, seems like there was something, well, while it is part of your job, or well, it is part of your job to set the law sometimes. Like, I don't know about that. Is it while or well, it is part of your job, Justice Kavanaugh, to set the law sometimes. And I understand it's easier for you, and you have a lot going on to not set the law, right? So I think it was like I don't think it was a while. I think it felt more like it felt like that. So I'm not sure exactly what it was, but she's kind of getting back into them a little bit.
For you, and you have a lot going on, not to set the law.
Ms. Blatt,
yeah.
I confess I'm still troubled by your suggestion that your friends on the other side have lied.
Okay, let's pull it up.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to here. And I'd ask you to reconsider that phrase.
An oral argument,
if I might,
was incorrect.
If I incorrect is fine.
Oh, lying.
People make mistakes.
Okay.
You can accuse people of being incorrect, but
That's
lying,
fine.
Ms. Blatt, if I might finish.
Sure.
Lying is another matter. Page 1 of your brief in opposition.
Yep.
As applied to the provision of idea services, the overlap between these statutes leads to a conceptual particularity that exists only in this context.
Yep.
That seems to suggest you're arguing for a unique rule. Page 2. For more than 40 years, courts of appeals considering this unique subset of ADA and rehabilitation claims directly challenging ideas, educational services have widely recognized that plaintiffs must establish more.
Yep.
That scheme requires plaintiffs to show that school professionals acted with discriminatory intent by demonstrating that their decisions were premised on bad faith or gross misjudgment. Page 3. In this unique context, courts must balance the Rehabilitation Act and ADA's prohibition on disability discrimination with educators' responsibility for determining appropriate special education services. The bad faith or gross misjudgment standard.
We say
okay, so let me just pause and just show what Gorsuch is doing here. He's saying, wow, this is interesting. So like you're calling them liars, but in your prior filings, you're showing where there's unique rules here and only in this context. In your brief in opposition, you're saying, in other words, that there's possibilities for alternative interpretations, right? It's not like it's 100% fact. So you can't come out unequivocally accuse the other side of lying if it is open to interpretation. Back to Gorsuch.
If I'm not finished.
Yeah.
Properly accounts for the need for deference. Page 27. As courts have recognized discrimination claims based on an IEP's adequacy or a conceptual peculiarity that exists in the primary and secondary educational context. Further down, the bad faith or gross misjudgment standard permits the courts to adjudicate these novel claims without requiring judges to substitute their own notions of sound educational policy for those of school authorities.
Correct.
One can interpret those perhaps different ways, but surely a reasonable person could interpret them as arguing for a special rule in the educational context, correct?
No, only because of the
Ms.
text.
Blatt.
Okay, well,
a reasonable person, all of those emphasize the unique context of primary and secondary education and the need for a special rule, don't they?
Fine, but what I'm objecting to.
Fine. Then would you withdraw your accusation?
I'll withdraw it.
Thank you. That's it.
That's fine.
Also, going back to a question Justice Barrett asked, you are basically
She
saying
just got told, withdraw it. Fine, I'll withdraw it. And she withdrew it. So, woo! And then Sotomayor comes in. Miss Blatt, I'm going to go back to the question of Barrett, and they went on and on and on. So that was spicy, my friends. Now, you don't see that. I know some of you are like, that's it. That's what we heard. That was like a murder on the Supreme Court floor. So, just so you know. Now, not that big of a deal. I think Miss Blatt was defending herself, but when you get scolded by a Supreme Court judge, don't call the other side liars if you can't sustain that. So, fun one to see. So, shout out to Justice Gorsuch. Don't let anybody get away with any garbage there in the Supreme Court. All right, so my friends, what a beautiful stream it has been. A little bit different today. Thanks for hanging with us and joining us. We followed the news today. President Trump scheduled his rally right at our showtime. We appreciate that, Mr. President. Thank you. Very convenient for us to celebrate your 100 days. But if you're just joining us, that's what we talked about. So we did spend about the first 90 minutes here listening to President Trump. And he came out with the burner of a speech celebrating the 100 days. It was a rally in Michigan. And we saw a nice FAFO video of the El Salvadorians, or at least the gangbangers being sent back to El Salvador, which was fun. We saw a couple people get afueraed right out of there. But by and large, I think Trump was confirming he's not even perturbed at all by any of the alleged setbacks. And the 100 days, from his perspective, I think have been very successful. I think from our perspective, they have as well. Everybody wants 100% accomplishment and everything to be achieved perfectly. But basically, the whole country has changed dramatically in a matter of 100 days. And I think everything is on the right path. So I'm pretty excited about where we're going. I do think the golden age is upon us. And it's only been 100 days. Add another 100. And then a couple other 100 more after that. It's going to be good. So, all right, my friends. Now, we talked about that. Then we did a couple of quick updates on the Noem situation. We read through a Noem motion to dismiss, which was a good one. This is a temporary protected status one. Venezuela, it's a big one. So hopefully we see some good outcomes there in Maryland. But read through that. Got some updates from Homan and more, and then heard from Gorsuch lacing in to a lawyer in the Supreme Court. Doesn't happen often, so it's always fun to stop and enjoy. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And thanks for joining us. Quick reminder, tomorrow's show is going to be early. So we'll be back here 9 a.m. my time, which is California Pacific time. And then it is going to be noon Eastern tomorrow for the show. One stream tomorrow, one stream back on Thursday. Your boy's traveling down to the valley and then heading back up the next day. So it's going to be back on track on Thursday with our regular stream. Otherwise, my friends, your boy's going to be traveling. But now let's hear from you. And thank you for sending these super chats and these donos in and for supporting our work. And I think we got some new membos who are joining us. Welcome, new membos in the house. Yeah, what's up? Michelle was here. That was from earlier. Good to see you, Michelle, from this morning. Hey, it's Taco Tuesday. Look at this little creature driving to get his pupusas. Ollie, what's up, Ollie? Bringing in one new membo. Sooners for Life just got a membo. Thank you, Sooners. Or thank you, Ollie. Welcome, Sooners. Doan says it's common to flood the zone with negative reports at a 98% and then conduct polls for the rinse and repeat news cycle. Yeah, and then they all copy and paste each other, which is basically what happened in the last election in 24. And they were all wrong, right? Many of them said Kamala was going to win, that Iowa Seltzer poll, and the whole thing was just fake. They just write stories for themselves. It's wild. Don't. Bernie's still kicking because he's skated all his life. Yeah, no, it's easy. If you don't have to work for 60 years, somebody else just pays you to scream about oligarchy. Yeah, it's nice gig. Mock Schnell, 6 months as a member. What's up, Mock? 3 more months to go. We got a baby. Says, sigh. All these leakers need to get the fines as a licensed airframe and power plant mechanic. We could get fines up to $250,000 and up to 10 years per item. Wow. From Mock Schnell. So, yeah, if you're if you're leaking in a private business and you sign contracts or national security stuff, or you're working for the government, airframe, power plant stuff, like national security stuff, crimes for that, but not for the Trump leakers, I think is what Mock Schnell is saying. Good to see you, Mock Schnell. Thanks for being here for 6 months. Kyle Cowden. Hey, 10 months, Kyle. Wow, a baby and some change. That went by fast. It sure did. It does go by fast. Yes, like you're here for 1 month and suddenly we got babies. Good to see you, Kyle. Thanks for supporting us. FD Man says Governor Whitmer couldn't thank the president on the stage at the air base. Says Governor Whitmer had the most sour-looking face at the Air National Guard base, then could not even thank Trump for the jobs coming back to Michigan. And that's a curious one. Yeah. She didn't put something in front of her face, like Whitmer didn't come out blocking her face to come out. She actually went out. Will Crump, can you believe, and thank you for the donos there, FD Man on Rumble. Thanks for watching over there. Will Crump, can you believe Judge Sweeney openly second-guessed matters of national security in her TRO against Trump? She ruled no predatory incursion, etc. Yeah, that's substituting judgment, right? They're now in charge. They say, no, it's not a predatory incursion because it doesn't meet the statute, doesn't meet the rules. You don't run Homeland, Judge. No one elected you to make that decision. You don't get to make that decision by law. It's ridiculous, Will Crump. SCOTUS better do something. Hey, FD Man. Yeah, picking up on saying the same thing. He is saying F you, SCOTUS, F you, inferior district court judges. I'm doing it using the full power of the INA and the power of this office. I agree, man. I think that video was a giant F. You sending a message. Yeah, play it. ACLU lawyers all across the country screeching in pain and sorrow for gangbangers. We have, I don't know, maybe they're flying down there to have more margaritas as we speak. What's up? Fred Samuel says none of the liberal media is broadcasting it live. And I flipped over a little bit to kind of show you what was cooking over there. Here's what it looks like right now. We got Jesse Waters up, Coops up with Rahm Emanuel, report cards on MSNBC. All right. Thank you, Fred. Yeah, a lot of them cut away from it. Larry Mass, what's up, Larry? Thank you, Larry, for becoming a member, supporting us. Appreciate you doing that. We had a great members only stream this morning, so be sure to check that out. Will Crump, these TRO judges know they're exceeding their authority and they do it anyways because there is never any punishment. Just treat them like Judge Dugan. Yeah, the thing with, like, this is the line, right? The thing with Dugan, who I think we'll probably talk about tomorrow. I heard she got suspended. Right, she did something, like, if you can argue that it's within your judicial prerogative or there's plausibility for it, then you can say you've got judicial immunity. Taking an illegal out of your courtroom when you have federal agents there, right, that's not, you can't even make an argument for that. So as soon as they step out, I agree, Will. Hey, Mock Schnell says, need President Trump's Interior Department to deal with California. Says we're going to lose our Valero refinery in Benicia, California in 2026. And one other closing next year, and one half we are losing 20% capacity. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. From Mock Schnell. I don't know what California's doing, but all right, well, maybe they'll move their refineries elsewhere, but sounds like a pretty stupid idea, but that's California for you. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Hey, Wojo. Hey, Wojo sent over an awesome meme for us. Says, hey, Robert, glad you like the action figure. I'll spare you by not telling today's bad joke. Oh, man. We love the bad jokes here, Wojo. So Wojo is awesome. So at the lodge, at watcherlodge.com, we're kind of building this in public. It's kind of a little playground for us right now. But we'd like to have you come check it out if you're interested in connecting at a deeper level. But we now have a memes section over at the lodge. So you can see here, we're posting memes over there. So see the veil, that actually came from G-Gum, so I have to fix that one. We got Looney Tunes over there, and then here's the action figure. And so you can post memes over there. This is open to everybody. There's a Watcher chat. All of our research files are here. This is at the Watcher Lodge. This is our chat that's happening here. We got all of our show notes and all the links on all the things that we cover are also at the lodge. But the post section, we got the memes anyways. So we're going to be working on this, and you can post stuff and add stuff if you'd like to. But this is the meme that came from Wojo. This is your boy's action figure. Check that out. It's pretty cool, huh? Watching the Watchers action figure, Robert Gouveia. I like it. Makes me look much better and put together than I actually am. So I appreciate it. Beginning to Winning, baby. That's our book. And it has the height right pretty well. So the height's good. Got that accurate. So watching the watchers, thank you for that. Over from Wojo, created and sent in by Wojo. Thank you, Wojo, for sending that in. People are making these all over the place. It's pretty funny. I've seen a couple good ones out there. So thanks, Wojo, for making that. Super fun. And check out the Lodge if you want to jump in the chat and all this stuff. It's all free. All right, Wojo, thank you for that. Super funny. I enjoyed it. Doan, hey, we're done helping the world recover from World War II. Yeah, we already did that. Yeah, we did that. Been doing that for a long time. Time to worry about America now. Thank you for that, Doan. Hey, Tex Rick. So genius that I am, noticing smiles on Rob and me, certainly, but everywhere this great man speaks. Thanks for jipping it, brother Rob. Thank you, Tex Rick, for joining us and hanging with us on the live. I know there's many places to hang and watch the live of a Trump speech, but we appreciate you joining us. It was fun. Always a good time to hear from the president. Yeah, I feel like there's good energy. Like there's people are talking about actual issues again. We aren't playing the stupid pronoun nonsense. Like things are getting back to normal. Low Pat watching on Rumble. Thank you, Low Pat. Thanks for sending this in and supporting us over there. Says, I listen to you daily, Rob. So happy to watch Trump 100-day celebration rally on your channel. Thanks for your work. Thank you, Low Pat. Yeah, I appreciate that. I know some people are not into watching a Trump speech here. So stick to the legal stuff and those things, but it's 100 days. We're celebrating, baby. We're partying. So thanks for hanging with us, Low Pat. Appreciate that. Yeah, and thanks for the nice dono. It's been fun. It's been a good 100 days. Doan says, might as well run it long, Stephen. Might as well run it long, Stephen, about the speech. I know Trump's like, okay, we got to go fast. We got to go fast. The other book dude, he took up like 10 minutes. I wasn't expecting that. So Stephen, come up here quickly. Stephen did great. Liberum X says, indeed, the GOAT president in the world. God bless. Greatest of all time. Thank you, Liberum X, for that dono. Great to see you. Wojo says, Democrats are more crooked than the 2x4s sold at Home Depot. I know. Have you seen those? They're like twisty pretzels. What's the deal? Think like this. What is this? What is this thing? I don't know. Wojo, good to see you. Hey, Gloria B. Sent one membo in. We got Robert Catlett coming in. Gifted a membo. Good to see you, Robert Catlett. Welcome aboard. Grabbed the stream from this morning. It was fun. Toku Lover says, our new Archbishop, His Excellent Robert G. Casey, was installed April 3rd, 2024 at the Basilica Cathedral of St. Peter in Cincinnati, Ohio. Wow, that's great. Shout out to new Archbishop Robert G. Casey in the house. Thank you, Toku Lover. Is he going to run for Pope? What's going on? Southern Comfort is here. Thank you, Southern Comfort, for signing up, becoming a membo, supporting our work, grabbing those membo streams. We appreciate you. Don't. One big bill will put the midterms over the top. Yeah, especially if it's something useful and good and the Republicans can contribute something. This old guy says 100 days is nothing. It had no meaning until FDR took office after the Great Depression. History looks back positively about his first 100 days, but when the country is absolutely on its knees, how bad can your decisions really be? Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing like some average scores from stuff. I'm like, what are people so upset about? Like, did you really think he was going to solve Ukraine on day one? Like, did you really think that? Okay, interesting. But it's been like 3 months, right? There's a lot to fix. And I think that the major issues and the shock and awe and the absolute obliteration of the Democratic Party is all like A+ level. What's up? Don't forget your TPS cover sheet, says the dude from Office Space. Steve Bolin, what's up, Steve? Says the UN should be processing TPS parolees as refugees. Yeah, the UN can help them, aren't they? Their whole international organization is set up for this. Doan, thank you for the dono, Steve. Doan says China owns both Venezuela and the Bidens, so why wouldn't Joe's running dog called Alejandro Mayorkas facilitate Beijing's proxies to flood into the U.S.? Yeah, I mean, you don't want to send them directly from China, so yeah, funnel them through some third party. Hunty knows a lot about that. He set up all the shell companies, if we recall. Will Crump, you know the judge will ignore the law and TRO Noem? Yeah, I suspect that's probably true. We'll have appeals, but the law sounds like it's right on her side. I mean, she quoted those statutes. Like, you can't look at this. It says it. They're like, well, I can because APA. FD, man, he should have told the fake news that they cheered Biden on while Biden opened the border. They did. Yeah, they were thrilled about it. They thought that they were, saving humanity, saving people who needed humanitarian aid when they were really facilitating the trafficking of kids into the country. But they felt really good about it. Don't know if they know what they did, but they feel good about it. FD man, Chuck says, I don't trust Trump's numbers on how open the border is. I is not like my pal, Biden's open border. Trump is a liar. Yeah, so Chuck Schumer lives in Delusionville when Joe Biden is in charge. Then when actual progress is made and the numbers are reported, he doesn't ever leave Delusionville. Tony Hay Munkets. Thank you, Tony Hay, for bringing in 10 new Membo friends. Welcome aboard. Veronica Holsovsky's in the house. Boss Mayor. What's up, David Bybee? What's up, Allison Lawler? Southern Ladies here. Christian Harris, Hallie P. We got Charla Shabiro, John in Iowa, welcome, and Tamitha H. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. What's up, Tony Hay? Thanks for that. Bill Dozer. What's up, Bill? Trump is celebrating his first 100 days tonight, and I'm hosting my 100th stream. I'll give Trump a solid B+ to A- depending on how much I see Pam Bondi doing interviews. It's a good question. So the more she does, the worse the score, probably. Yeah, I think A- is what I would settle on. A lot of people were giving grades. I think A- is what I would give. Is where I would settle on that. JB, what's up? Hey, Rob, I've been watching since your old last name. Oh, my goodness. That's been a long time. Hey, forgive me if I'm out of line. I've been trying to help my dog, Daisy. Anything helps, even prayers. Thanks and sorry. Epics help Daisy run and play again at the GoFundMe from the Patriarchy. No, nothing to worry about at all. I'm very sorry to hear about your dog, Daisy. So for those of you who don't know, I did change my name a couple of years ago. I was born mislabeled with a wrong last name and took my mama's name. So Govea is my mother's name, and I love my mama. So we adopted the mama's name. But that's the old name, and I'm trying to help my dog, Daisy. So shout out to your dog, Daisy. Man, sorry to hear that. Help Daisy run and play again. What a beautiful pup. Sorry to hear she's not doing well. And I hope that she can get the treatment she needs. Thank you for that, the Patriarchy in the house. And thanks for being here for so long. Been a long time. Good to see you. What's up? This one came in from Yvette Tevenel. What's up, Yvette? Thank you for being a member for 2 months. First month's the hardest, gets easier from there. 2 months, it gets nice and easy. What's up, Tony Hay? Says, baby, you're a firework. Go on, show what you're worth. Boom, boom, boom. Even brighter than the moon, moon, moon. What is that a song, Tony Hay? It's beautiful. That's exactly how I feel about you, Tony Hay. Thanks for saying that. Will Crump, but the law clearly says no judicial second guessing. Much more plain can it be made? How much more plain can it be made? They don't get a say. Yeah, it's in there like 5 times. The judge will probably say, where is it? I don't read it. I can't see it. Hey, Kepaloose, Cuploose, what's up? Says Letitia James defrauded the banks to get better loans. So does that mean that she also defrauded the government by not paying the right taxes? Is she liable for tax fraud? I don't think they charged her with tax fraud, but wire fraud, mortgage fraud. I don't think it was tax fraud, but probably a lot more there. Like if she's dishonest in her mortgage forms and filing, she's probably also fraudulent in her tax filings and her tax returns. She could be in big trouble, man. It would be wild, right? If they find more there. Former LEO says, FYI, the People's Republic of California uses a special blend of fuel, unleaded fuel. This fuel is only used in California. And in the past, whenever the refinery shut down for maintenance, the prices skyrocketed. So it stands to reason, if the refinery is shut down, the price of California unleaded gasoline will skyrocket, never come down. California will be turning into an unaffordable wasteland. I'm pretty sure it's already there, but that's from former LEO. I was reading another article. Do you know there's like 215 cities in America where a starter home is $1 million for a starter home, not like $1 million mansion, like a starter home. And 115 or something like that, I just saw the article today, are in California. Okay, 115 cities in California where your starter home is $1 million. What for? I don't know. FD man, Zelensky is effing up all the peace in UKR versus Russia. Ukraine is losing badly, but little Zelensky is mad because his grift power over Biden is gone. He does seem mad. Yeah. That does not seem like it's going well at all. What's up, Acid Burn? I'm here. What's up, Acid Burn? Great to see you. Thank you for being here and letting us know. Elena, what's up? Elena in the house. Bringing in 5 membos, a.k.a. Neely. Thank you, Neely, for doing this one. We got Tracy Collins is here. Tiffany Michael. What's up, James Giddings? Spoon-fed facts in the house. And Jack Eastridge, gifted membos courtesy of Neely. Thank you, Neely, for doing that. Hey, it's the Munkets. Tony Hay with 10 new membos coming in. Silly name for you is here. John Wilhelm, Anna Kaufman, Jedi, Dan Lee, Darth Kitty, Michael, America First, Drew the Dog Man, and Lisa Gordon, all gifted membos courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. We appreciate Tony. Thank you, Tony, for bringing in new membo friends. All right, and my friends, thanks for sending all of those in. Thanks for hanging with us on this 100-day stream. Let's say hello to our friends on X. Then we'll wrap it up on the day. Oh, this was amazing. From Teutonic Salt. You know, it's Taco Tuesday. Here's an image of Trump celebrating Taco Tuesday. He's already out eating tacos. Here's the president celebrating. Right there with the margarita. So yeah, it's looking good. All right, so that's on X. What's going on? What's up, Jody? Sharing this one. Thank you, Jody, for sharing that. Old okay grandpa says, "Mi casa, me su casa." Yeah, what's going on, Jody? Rob, do you believe that Biden or Kamala could have done a speech like that? No, of course not. Kamala has the charisma of a turnip, and Joe Biden has dementia. Hey, Barbara. What's up, Barbara? Thanks for this, Barbara. Says, "I look forward to your show every day. You're the best and most effective splainer there is." I don't know about that. But Barbara, we're glad to have you here. I'm just your humble document reader, just trying to read the documents. Old okay grandpa says, Scott Jennings says, "I got to get a farm in Michigan because when you own as many libs as we do, you got to store them someplace." Where do you put the libs? Maybe on the moon someplace? Hey, Spuds. Rob, the commies in Rochester are out in full force, including this woman, calling him inhumane and face of evil. Okay, lady. Yeah, okay. Yes, we know. She's out there fighting for America. Yes, thank you. Okay. So thanks for sending those in over on X, my friends. We appreciate you following us over there and following other watchers out there in the wilderness, in the wild, on all of the platforms. We, of course, are going to wrap it up right there on the day. And I was trying to find a way to forward the feed to our friends at Off Label, but I don't, again, see them live right now. Here they are. Okay, so let's see if we can do this and send you over to our friends at Off Label. All right, so here we are. Let's see if this works. Boom! We got it. Okay, I figured it out, I think. All right, so when the YouTube show ends, we're going to send you over to our friends, Voice of the People and the Off Label podcast. They're live right now, and it looks like they're talking about that impeachment maniac. So that's going to be fun. So, of course, we're going to send you over there. We are also going over to Locals, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. So if you'd like to join us over there and become a member, we'll see you over there. Reminder, tomorrow and Thursday, we're doing one streams. So membos, we will miss you on the membo streams, but we'll stick around for the after parties. So tomorrow morning, we will be back here 12 noon Eastern for the show. We'll see what the day has in store for us. I think I got some Dugan stuff queued up, so that should be fun. And then on Thursday, back at the regular time for the regular show. I'm traveling, so I'm going to be out of pocket for about 24 hours. So, or however long that is. Anyways, so that's the plan. So we will be back here early tomorrow. So if you're going to join us, thanks for hitting the notification bell. Thanks for subscribing and all the things. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. KB in the house, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek. Keeping things nice and orderly around here. Just Rhonda's working on some new emojis for us, Purveyor Fine Emojis. Geegum Geegum, our meme smith extraordinaire. And of course, Elliot, our doc master and poet master, all modding the fort down for us and keeping things nice and orderly. Check out watcherlodge.com if you want to come over and access the research files, access the chat, post in the memes section, and we'll see you over there in between the streams. Otherwise, my friends, that's going to be it for us on the day. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow. We are going to be here a bit early, and we'd love to see you here because in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to have you join us right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow in the morning. Bye-bye.